It is the first day of the new semester and Kuroki is in a new class. Kuroki sits down as class is about to start. The rumored Jurai girl is sitting in the seat right next to him. She has red eyes, dull skin, and a melancholic expression. She fits every physical trait that defines a Jurai girl. Kuroki had heard the rumors but never saw her until now. He finds it surprising to see her from such a close distance. The other students notice that Chihara has arrived. Kuroki is a plain second-year student who has never talked to a girl. Classmates whisper that she looks like a manhua and is very scary. They say it would be dangerous for anyone she catches. Chihara-mai is popular, but people only talk about her for the wrong reasons. Kuroki watches her and decides that he cannot imagine ever interacting with her. She suddenly turns her head and looks directly at him. He wonders if she is looking at him just because he was looking at her. She does not look away and continues to stare at him. He thinks she is staring way too much. He worries that he stared for too long and made her mad. He wonders why she keeps looking at him. The power of her stare is overwhelming. He thinks he would rather run away barefoot than deal with this situation. She keeps her eyes fixed on him. Kuroki apologizes to his mother in his head because he cannot handle the pressure. Kuroki thinks he should apologize and starts calling Chihara's name. Chihara remains seated and continues to stare directly at him. Kuroki confirms that she is looking right in his direction. He tries to calm himself by reasoning that she will not kill him, though he still wonders who she is and what he should do now. Kuroki attempts to address Chihara again but hesitates mid-sentence. Chihara leans in very close to him, which Kuroki finds overwhelming. As Chihara leans in, Kuroki's gaze inadvertently drops toward her chest. He considers the situation a massive obstacle and realizes he unconsciously looked down because she was too close. He questions why this is happening to him and what she could possibly want. Kuroki wonders if the entire situation is a joke or some new way of bullying him. Other students nearby whisper about her being a scary manhua who wears a lot of ties. Kuroki thinks that she might actually want to catch him. He asks himself if this is what people mean by a Jurai and feels scared while wondering if she wants to hold someone's hand. Chihara keeps her eyes fixed on him and Kuroki struggles to decide what to do in this situation. Kuroki calls out to Chihara as her hands reach toward him. Chihara grabs his face and pulls herself close to him. He whispers into his ear and asks him to show her his book. Kuroki agrees to her request. He hands over the book but mentions that she is standing a bit too close. Chihara stares at him silently. She takes the book and thanks him. Kuroki feels a cold sweat on his back after the interaction. He thinks about how dangerous people say she is and how close she just was to him. He realizes that he actually knows nothing about her. He continues to wonder about her reputation as a Jurai girl. Chihara smiles and holds out a book as a thank you gift. Kuroki takes the book from her. He looks down at the history textbook and wonders why she gave it to him. The teacher begins class by announcing they will study trigonometric functions. Kuroki looks on, still thinking about the encounter. Kuroki wonders why he was given a history book, just as math class is starting. Kuroki thinks she is an interesting person. A classmate asks if he finished the exercise on page 15, but he replies that he only knows about the Edo Bakufu, which causes the other student to ask why. Kuroki watches Chihara sleep during class and thinks her sleeping face is a little scary. Kuroki continues to observe Chihara as she looks away from him. He watches her as she moves her arm across the desk. Chihara turns back toward him with a small smile and lifts her hand. The other students whisper about seeing Chihara stare at her wrist and laugh. Kuroki wonders to himself if she really did laugh. The girls in class call Chihara scary and say she looks dangerous and into blood stuff. Kuroki agrees that her looks match her actions and thinks her strong image makes it easy to imagine her doing the things people rumor about. After class is over, Kuroki walks through the hallway feeling tense. Chihara suddenly reaches out toward him, catching him off guard. Kuroki stops and begins to call out her name. Chihara looks directly at him as he addresses her. Chihara holds out a large package of gum toward Kuroki in the hallway. Kuroki stands still and stares at the gum being offered to him. Kuroki is caught off guard by her sudden action. He wonders if she is actually trying to offer the gum to him. He asks Chihara if the gum is meant for him. Chihara stays silent and begins to unwrap a piece of the gum. She bites into the gum and Kuroki is shocked by what she just did. Chihara continues to chew the gum while Kuroki looks on in confusion. He realizes that she is indeed offering him a piece of the gum she just handled. He does not understand the situation well, but one specific thought begins to worry him deeply. He worries that if he accepts and eats the gum, it could be seen as an indirect kiss. He thinks about how this would be his first time and how just thinking about the implication makes him feel sad and disgusted. He decides not to overthink it and thanks her, feeling that it would be bad to reject the offer since she gave him so much. Kuroki starts chewing the gum as Chihara watches him. Chihara looks at him and starts to tell him about something she used to do. Chihara mentions that she used to eat this gum as a child and finds the flavor nostalgic. She remains silent for a moment. Chihara laughs in a way that Kuroki finds creepy. She hands the rest of the gum to Kuroki and begins to walk away while he calls out her name. Chihara looks back to Wave and tells Kuroki she will see him tomorrow. Kuroki blushes and tells her he will see her tomorrow as well, thinking that she is interesting after all. He stands by the window and continues to think about how she is a compelling person. Chihara removes the cap from a black marker. She remains alone in a quiet classroom. Chihara smiles to herself while holding the pen. A list written on her wrist reveals her semester goals are to say hello and befriend the student sitting beside her. A summary notes that Kuroki has unknowingly become close to the rumored girl who sits at the neighboring desk. After school, Kuroki washes his hands and thinks about how his life has suddenly changed in ways he is still not used to. Kuroki feels a bit scared of approaching people because he thinks they might hate him for no reason. He thinks Chihara is more than she seems. He walks out to find her sitting there and she greets him. Chihara tells him she saw him passing by and thought they could go home together. Kuroki asks her what is up. Kuroki is shocked and asks if she was really waiting for him right outside the men's bathroom. He stands there in silence, unsure of how to respond to her. He finally reacts with surprise, asking if she truly wants to go with him. Chihara nods and asks again if they should go home together. Kuroki continues to look at her with a conflicted expression. Caught in a panic, he asks her why she would want to do that. Chihara looks at him, seemingly stunned by his question. She turns away and starts to leave, telling him that he is mistaken. Kuroki calls out and tells her to wait a second. He asks her if she takes the train to school and she confirms that she does. Kuroki blushes and tells her that he is also heading to the station. Chihara looks at him with a surprised and bright expression. Kuroki notes that Chihara looks surprised and wonders if she is actually feeling relieved. Chihara lets out a soft sigh. She looks back at him and tells him it is time to go. As he follows her, Kuroki decides that she is not actually as scary as he thought. While passing the bike racks, Kuroki asks Chihara if she has a bicycle. She asks him if he means a bicycle. Chihara admits that she does not know how to ride a bike. Kuroki excitedly says he doesn't either and mentions that many other students use them. Kuroki immediately regrets his outburst, worrying that he spoke to her as if they were already close friends. Chihara leans in close with a suppressed smile. Kuroki thinks she is standing much too near to him. Kuroki reminds her that she just said she could not ride a bicycle either. On the walk home, Kuroki panics because he cannot find any topic to talk about with her. He feels like the silence is awkward and decides he needs to say something, so he starts calling her name. Chihara looks at him with a serious expression and begins to utter a single sound. Chihara glares intensely at Kuroki, causing him to panic and wonder what is happening. Kuroki watches her expression and worries that she has become angry with him. Kuroki feels that his plans have failed and becomes so scared that he worries he might pee himself. Chihara points down the street and says she can see something over there. She specifies that she is looking at a big cat's butt. Kuroki looks toward a shop and wonders if she really sees a cat. The round objects are actually just manju-shaped decorations for a confectionery store. Chihara continues to insist she sees two cats piling on top of each other while Kuroki tries to talk to her. Kuroki asks if her eyes are okay and mentions that she is wearing colored contacts without a prescription. Kuroki pulls out the glasses he uses for the blackboard and points out that the objects aren't actually cats. Chihara puts on his glasses to see for herself, which makes Kuroki's heart pound. She has a sudden realization and quickly takes the glasses off while Kuroki watches her anxiously. She thanks him as she returns the glasses and he tells her she is welcome. Kuroki is surprised to see her blushing as she hides her face behind her hair. Chihara apologizes and asks him to forget what happened, while Kuroki admits he also had trouble seeing it at first. Chihara walks away with a shaky gait while Kuroki watches her in silence. Kuroki thinks to himself that Chihara is actually quite cute while he holds his hand to his face. As they keep walking, Kuroki tries to start a conversation by asking if she likes cats, but Chihara tells him to forget about the cat incident and he agrees. Kuroki admits to himself that seeing her in his glasses was a treat because he has a glasses fetish. They reach the station, and Chihara announces she is heading to track 4 while Kuroki says goodbye and tells her he will see her at school. Chihara stops him and starts rummaging through her bag, making Kuroki wonder what she is looking for. She pulls out a pen and tells him to give her his arm, which makes Kuroki nervous about what she plans to do. Chihara writes her chat ID on his arm, and he realizes her handle is lovecatmy. She explains that she wants to be able to talk to him outside of school as well. Kuroki says goodbye and realizes she really does like cats as he walks away. While sitting on the train, Kuroki reflects on the fact that he actually obtained Chihara's contact information. He stands in the station area still processing the exchange of contact info. As he walks through the streets at sunset, his mind remains fixed on the fact that he has her info. Kuroki reaches his front door while still dwelling on the successful interaction. He walks into his house and tells his mother that he just got Chihara's contact info, and she congratulates him. Someone walks down the school corridor wearing platform shoes. A girl with blonde hair and black ribbons looks out while holding a lollipop in her mouth. Chihara walks through the hallway alone until someone spots her. The blonde girl runs up and hugs Chihara from behind. She excitedly calls her Mai and asks what she is doing. The girl asks Chihara if she is free and invites her to come over to her classroom. Chihara's friend Chinatu Iwakura tells Chihara to hold still while she paints her nails black. She tells Chihara that her natural nails are lame. Chinatu tells Mai that black suits her well and makes her look cute. Chihara sits silently and begins to shake because the sensation is ticklish. Chinatu talks about her new boyfriend and how much he loves her. She mentions that she had almost given up on dating after her last breakup. Chinatu continues to brag about her boyfriend, saying he is incredibly sweet and doesn't find her annoying at all. Chinatu tells Mai that she loves her for always being willing to listen to her talk. Chihara bites her own cheek hard enough to make her mouth bleed. Chinatu laughs and asks her why she is suddenly bleeding. Chinatu finishes the job and says there are no more unpainted spots on the nails. Chihara thanks her, and Chinatu asks to take a picture of her work. Chinatu says she will send the photo to her boyfriend and brag about painting the nails. She mentions that he is always quick to respond and offers to show Chihara. Chinatu finishes sending the message on her phone. Chinatu starts counting the seconds while staring at the screen. The message is immediately marked as read. Chinatu cheers because he saw it so fast and calls him the best. Chihara calls out to her friend to ask a question. Chinatu looks back and asks what is on her mind. Chihara asks why she sent the message. Chinatu asks if she is referring to the text she just sent. Chihara asks if sharing updates like that is what makes people get closer to each other. Chinatu looks at her silently. Chinatu smiles and confirms that Chihara is correct. Chinatu asks if there is someone Chihara wants to get closer with and encourages her to talk about it. Chihara nods in response. Chinatu offers to pick out clothes and makeup for her and promises to keep doing her nails. Chinatu tells her there is no need to worry and asks if that sounds okay. Chihara nods as she feels reassured. Chinatu suggests they go pick out some clothes after school is over, and Chihara agrees. Kuroki relaxes at home and considers watching a movie until bedtime. His phone dings with a notification, and he is shocked to see a chat message from Chihara. He opens the message and finds an image of a bowl of udon. He is completely confused by the random photo. Kuroki decides to send a response back. He tells her that he had deep-fried mackerel for his own dinner. The phone dings again, immediately making him jump. He begins to feel incredibly nervous. He stares at his phone and wonders what the message is. Chihara responded with a sticker of a happy cat. Kuroki thinks the interaction went well based on the sticker she used. He thinks it is amusing that someone as mysterious as her eats something as normal as udon. He feels slightly rude for having that thought. At Chihara's house, her mother tells her to hurry up and take a bath. Chihara stands in her room looking dazed while staring at her phone. Kuroki hears other male students gossiping about Chihara in the hallway. He realizes she is once again the most talked about girl in school. He thinks it makes sense because her looks and actions lead people to assume things about her. Kuroki reflects on how she never denies the rumors, which makes them even more exaggerated. He believes she isn't actually the type to cause trouble. He tells the gossiping students that Chihara isn't as malicious as they think. As they walk off, he considers following them for a bit. Kuroki follows the two students as they walk through the hallway. The students describe their confusion after seeing Chihara fall off her bike while she was practicing on the way to school. The students turn to Kuroki and ask him what kind of relationship he has with Chihara. They admit it is rare to hear him speak up and say they are curious because he was talking about Chihara. The students imagine Chihara acting possessive over Kuroki and ask if they are doing something behind the scenes. Kuroki worries that telling them about their walk home will start a rumor and considers mentioning the gum she gave him instead. Kuroki tells the students that Chihara gave him a long one. The students immediately imagine Chihara handing Kuroki a long sword. Kuroki laughs and says that it was so nostalgic and good, which leaves the other students completely shocked. Kuroki claims they are just classmates who sit next to each other, but the students insist they are not a match for one another. The students point out that Kuroki is a perfectly ordinary introvert, while Chihara is a notorious Jurei girl. Kuroki realizes he cannot tell them that Chihara is actually an airhead because they do not understand her good and bad impressions. Kuroki mentions that she likes butts while remembering her pointing out cat butts. Chihara touches a cat's rear while Kuroki watches, and the other students scream in disbelief at the idea of her liking butts. Kuroki laughs as he tells his classmates about the time Chihara wrote on his body with a marker. The students are horrified as they imagine Chihara pinning Kuroki down and unbuttoning his shirt to write on his bare skin. Kuroki shows them his arm and explains that he finally understood how much she loves cats because of the message. In the students' minds, Chihara laughs mischievously while writing that she loves cats across Kuroki's chest. The two students are completely stunned and their minds go blank from the overwhelming confusion. Kuroki remains oblivious to their shock and simply concludes that she is a funny person. The students stare at him with empty expressions, and one eventually asks what is wrong. They continue to look at him in total silence, unable to process what they just heard. One of the students decides that it is best if they do not ask him any more questions about her. Kuroki is startled and asks why they are stopping, while the narrative notes that he is terrible at telling stories. Kuroki realizes that he still needs to give Chihara something in return for the gum she gave him earlier. He worries that giving her a gift might be perceived as gross, but he feels he cannot just leave the favor unreturned. He remembers hearing that she often spends her breaks in the classroom next to theirs. Kuroki peeks into the room and jumps when a flashy girl spots him and asks if he is looking for someone. Kuroki asks if Chihara is around, but Chinatu explains that Mai went to the infirmary because her head hurt. Kuroki thanks her and says he will see her later. Chinatu watches him leave and wonders who he was thinking. He acted like a middle school student. Chihara sits in the infirmary with an ice pack on her head, suffering from a bump she received during her bike accident. The nurse tells Kuroki his treatment is finished and gives his head a pat. He is still in some pain. She explains that he lost a significant amount of blood, but the wound is shallow. Kuroki thanks her for the help. The nurse tells him to go to a hospital if he feels anything strange later on. Kuroki agrees and starts thinking about the events that led him back to the nurse's office. Kuroki begins walking through the hallway to get back to his classroom. He accidentally bumps shoulders with a massive member of the judo club. Kuroki is sent flying from the impact and crashes into a window. The judo student carries a dazed Kuroki back into the infirmary. The nurse is shocked to see him again so soon. The student apologizes for being careless and slides his phone number to Kuroki. Kuroki thanks him for the gesture and says he should be the one apologizing for spacing out. The nurse tells Kuroki to rest a bit longer because his head is still spinning. He apologizes and agrees to stay. Kuroki wants to go to his math class but knows he should probably rest more. He hears a rattling noise and notices Chihara peeking at him through the infirmary curtains before she shuts them. The curtains whoosh shut and Kuroki looks over in confusion. The curtains whoosh open again and Chihara stares out at him. Kuroki stands up because he feels a sudden presence nearby. He looks around nervously while wondering who is there. He continues to stare at the curtain because he feels like someone is watching him. Kuroki sits back down and tells himself it is just his imagination. Chihara shuffles quietly out from behind the curtains while he is looking away. Chihara leans in very close to Kuroki's face and asks him where he got hurt. Kuroki yells out in surprise when he sees her so close. She gives a simple greeting while he tries to calm his racing heart. She asks what happened to him. Kuroki explains that he bumped his head and lost a lot of blood but claims it is not a big deal. Chihara acknowledges his explanation. Chihara stares at him and asks if it hurts when he touches the wound. Kuroki says that it does not hurt anymore. Chihara lifts her hand toward his face. She begins to stroke his head near the bandage. Kuroki stays perfectly still as she touches him. Kuroki blushes intensely while she continues to stroke his forehead. Chihara keeps her eyes fixed on him as she maintains contact. Kuroki grabs her arm and nervously asks if she is also in the infirmary because she is unwell. Chihara thinks about a cat and confirms that she is there for treatment too. Kuroki and Chihara hear footsteps approaching the room. Chihara looks back toward the entrance. The nurse opens the door and announces that she finished speaking with the math teacher. The nurse finds the bed empty and wonders if Kuroki already returned to his classroom. Chihara hides Kuroki behind the infirmary curtains. He wonders why she is concealing him. A teacher calls the nurse away to the staff room. Chihara shuts the curtains, completely causing Kuroki to jump in surprise. Chihara mentions that her head hurts from the bump she got. Kuroki asks if she is okay and taps her head to find the spot. Chihara responds with a finger flick to his forehead. Kuroki apologizes and asks if he hurt her, wondering if she is trying to get even. Kuroki clenches his eyes shut while Chihara stares at him. Chihara reaches out and pulls Kuroki forward by his necktie. Chihara pushes Kuroki back onto the bed. He sits there in total confusion. Chihara peeks at him through a small opening in the curtains. She tells him good night. Chihara pulls the curtains shut and leaves Kuroki alone. Kuroki blushes as he realizes that she was actually worried about him. Kuroki lies down on the bed to rest and continues to think about her. Kuroki lies in the infirmary bed thinking that Chihara's scent is still there. He complains that he cannot sleep, and the narrator mentions that he is still going through puberty. A hand with black nails squeezes toothpaste onto a toothbrush. Chihara brushes her teeth while looking in the mirror. She gargles and swishes water in her mouth. She buttons up her white shirt and puts on her school uniform. She finishes her morning preparations. She tells her mother she is leaving and confirms she hasn't forgotten anything before arriving at the train station. Students at the station glare at Chihara as she walks past, and Kuroki watches the scene unfold. She hears people whispering about her and wonders what is going on. She looks down toward her feet. She realizes she is wearing one normal school shoe and one flashy Jurai shoe because she brought the wrong pair. She stands on the platform waiting for the train while the people around her continue to stare. Chihara realizes her mistake and looks completely shocked. She thinks about going home to change her shoes but decides against it because she would be late. She imagines her friend telling her it will be okay and continues to school. Chihara passes her teacher in the hallway and says good morning. The teacher calls out to her and tells her to wait for a second. Chihara stops and looks back at the teacher. She prepares herself to be scolded for her mismatched shoes. The teacher puts her hands on Chihara's shoulders and says she understands everything now. She assumes there must be a deep reason for Chihara's flashy style, but knows she cannot allow it. Fourth period arrives and it is time for gym class. Chihara looks into her locker and realizes something else is wrong. She finds that she accidentally packed a very flashy jersey instead of her school gym uniform. She remembers falling asleep while folding laundry and packing the wrong clothes. She recalls her friend telling her to always stay confident and calm even when making mistakes. Chihara walks onto the gym floor wearing the flashy black jersey. Her classmates stare at her in disbelief as she tries to follow her friend's advice and stay confident. Chihara is called to the staff office where a teacher tells her that the school has specific limits on attire. During the lunch break, Chihara looks at a piece of paper and realizes she must write an apology letter. She suddenly gasps when she checks her phone. Her father has sent a message informing her that she left her bento box at home. Chihara stares at her phone with a dazed expression. She checks her funds and finds she only has 30 yen in pocket money. She fidgets with her apology letter while worrying about her situation. 3 packages of corn snacks are grouped together on the desk. Classmates whisper that Chihara's lunch of candy fits her image but is a unique habit. Kuroki looks at her and notes that she is still hungry. Kuroki asks if she is only having candy for lunch and if she always does that. He wonders if there is a reason for her lunch choice while worrying that it is not enough to eat. Kuroki holds out an onigiri and asks if she would like to have some. He explains that his mother made the chicken rice balls and that he has an extra one he cannot finish. Chihara stares at the food in silence, leading Kuroki to ask if she simply does not like it. Chihara smiles at him and says she loves it. Kuroki smiles as he watches her prepare to eat the rice ball. Kuroki watches her eat and thinks she is an unusual person for some reason. Chihara stands in a pair of flashy black platform shoes decorated with ribbons and chains. Someone looks at the shoes and thinks they look really cool. Kuroki thinks about the idea of being alone on the first day of school and becoming friends with a nice person sitting nearby. He realizes there is a significant complication to this idea. He explains the phenomenon where you might consider someone your only friend, but they are nice to everyone and have many others. A teacher tells the class to get into pairs. During English class, the teacher tells the students to form pairs and read the text together. Chihara looks at Kuroki and considers him as a partner. Other students call out to Kuroki, and Chihara turns her head to look at him. Chihara gazes toward Kuroki with an intense look in her eyes. People often have an exaggerated and deadly impression of Chihara when she sits silently in her seat. Kuroki nervously addresses Chihara and asks if she is okay. He asks Chihara if they can be partners for the class activity, which leaves her looking stunned. Kuroki mentions that everyone else seems to have paired up without him and says he already has the worksheet. Chihara stares at him with a wide-eyed, dazed expression. He asks if she is already paired up with someone else, and she quickly says she is not and thanks him. He replies that he is glad. While out to buy a birthday cake for his sister, Kuroki checks his phone to remember his family's different flavor preferences. He suddenly spots Chihara walking nearby. Kuroki is shocked to encounter Chihara while they are both outside of school. Kuroki backs away and decides not to interfere with her private life, assuming she is meeting up with someone. A man approaches Chihara and asks if she has some time. Kuroki watches them and decides to go back to his errands. The man explains he is a cameraman and asks to take pictures of her. Chihara begins to pose, but the man tells her to stop. Kuroki sees her again while holding the single cream puff he was able to afford. Kuroki considers giving her a quick greeting, but he suddenly hears the sound of someone sobbing. A small child stands nearby crying for her mother. Kuroki and Chihara both notice her. Chihara asks the girl where she last saw her mother, and the girl mentions the bookstore. Kuroki crouches down to help. Chihara watches the lost child and feels a desire to help her. She remembers several times in the past when her fierce eyes caused children to cry. Kuroki comforts the girl by saying her mother must be in the commercial district and gives her his cream puff. Chihara looks on from the side. A figure wearing a character mask leans in very close to Kuroki. Chihara puts on a mask and tells the child that she is the character Lovely Warrior. The girl points out that the real character has pink hair, so Chihara claims she is just a fan. Kuroki asks her what she is doing after she tells the girl her real age. Kuroki realizes she came to help and points out the nearby police station. He wonders if she had been watching them the entire time. The child and a woman say goodbye as they leave. Kuroki thanks Chihara for her help because he was unsure of how to handle the situation alone. Kuroki admits that he does not feel very reliable. Chinatu suddenly appears and asks Chihara what she is doing. Chihara looks at Kuroki and tells him that he is actually a reliable person. Kuroki blushes at her comment while walking through the busy street. Kuroki asks how her day was, and Chihara replies that she went to a cat cafe. In a fantasy story, a lone healer named Kuroki arrives at the Demon Lord's castle after the rest of his party abandon the quest. Kuroki finds the castle creepy and wonders what he is supposed to do next. He decides to scout the area since there is not much else he can do by himself. Kuroki peers into a room and is shocked to see the Demon Lord, who is Chihara. He immediately thinks he has no chance of winning. Chihara looks right at him and Kuroki panics because he has been spotted. Chihara makes a gesture with her finger. Kuroki believes his life is over. Chihara pulls Kuroki into her lap and holds onto him. Kuroki is confused and wonders what Chihara's intentions are. Chihara pinches Kuroki's cheeks every time he tries to run away. He eventually gives up and decides to stay in the castle with her. It is lunch time and the other students are leaving the classroom. Kuroki looks over and notices Chihara still in her seat. Chihara sits by the window as the room empties out. She begins to untie the knot on her cloth-wrapped bento box. Kuroki thinks it is rare for Chihara to stay in the classroom for lunch since she usually just eats candy. He notes that she is usually always with someone else, but she is alone today because Chinatu is absent. The two of them sit at their desks with their lunches ready to be opened. Kuroki has invited Chihara to eat lunch with him for the first time. They sit on the rooftop terrace, and Chihara explains she came up there because she did not want to be given weird looks by other students. She looks at Kuroki and asks if he is sure that spending lunch with her is not too much trouble. Chihara comments that the weather is nice and feels good outside. Kuroki admits that he has few friends and is bad at inviting people to do things, so he was glad when she talked to him. Chihara is surprised by his honesty and accidentally drops her chopsticks. The chopsticks fall through the railing and land in the bushes far below. Chihara watches her chopsticks fall away while Kuroki looks on in disbelief. Kuroki offers his own unused chopsticks to Chihara. She is stunned and asks if he really plans to eat his lunch with his bare hands. Chihara asks if he is truly comfortable with that arrangement. He suggests she can just give them back when she is finished, but she points out he would have to eat very fast. He claims to be a quick eater. Chihara proposes that they take turns using the chopsticks to eat. Kuroki is surprised by the idea. Kuroki realizes that sharing the same utensils would be an indirect kiss and gasps as he wonders if it is really okay. He considers flipping the chopsticks to use the other ends, but worries that doing so might hurt her feelings. He decides that she probably would not mind and that flipping them is just his way of being respectful. Chihara takes some food while Kuroki tries to use the chopsticks on his own bento. She tells him that he is very bad at using them this way. Chihara munches on a piece of his food. Kuroki asks her what she took from his box. Chihara continues to chew the food in silence. Chihara imagines them being best friends who happily and steal food from each other's lunches. She tells Kuroki that she messed up her communication, but he is confused by what she means. Chihara pokes at a piece of fried food and tells him to eat up, noting that there is a lot of brown food in her bento. She offers him a piece of tamagoyaki. Kuroki asks if she is sure she wants to give it to him. They discuss their different family recipes for eggs. Kuroki explains his mother makes them sweet with sugar and milk, while Chihara finds the taste unique and decides to ask her father about his dashi-style version later. Chihara mentions that her father makes amurus when he is in a good mood. Kuroki thinks it is awesome to have that in a bento, but Chihara notes the portion is always small. Chihara asks Kuroki if he wants to try the amurus at her house. Kuroki reacts with shock. Chihara stares at him while he continues to process the unexpected invitation. Kuroki repeats the idea of going to her house in his head. He feels nervous thinking about it but decides he needs to have more confidence and not refuse her offer. Kuroki accidentally blurts out that he actually does not want to go. Chihara looks stunned. Kuroki immediately apologizes and says he messed up because that is not what he meant. The scene transitions to after class at a coffee shop called Jenke. Inside her father's shop, Chihara explains that she simply wanted to eat his amurus. Chinatu arrives at Chihara's home at 7 a.m. to play. Chihara looks drowsy and notes the early hour. Chinatu says she's going to use Chihara to play by doing her makeup and dressing her up. Chihara questions the phrasing as they regularly meet like this. Chinatu hands Chihara an energy drink as a penalty for being late. Chihara slurps the drink even though she was actually on time. Chihara stares intensely and calls Chinatsu's name, saying she is ready to start. Chinatu asks Mai what is on her mind, and Chihara tells her to wait while she goes to wash her face and brush her teeth. Chinatu happily agrees. Chinatu applies a face mask to Chihara and tells her to leave it on for 15 minutes. She then brings out a suitcase to prepare for the makeover. Chinatu tells Chihara to stay perfectly still like a mannequin and not to remove the mask too early. Chihara waits quietly as her face feels soft under the mask. Chinatu contemplates which outfit she should have Chihara wear first for the session. Chinatu holds up two different style choices and asks Chihara which one she thinks looks better. Chihara is spaced out and says both options look nice, so Chinatu decides on the more intense one. Chinatu settles on the style and confirms that they are moving forward with that choice. Chinatu tells Chihara she can take the mask off now, and Chihara looks sparkly as she does. Chinatu decides to add some specific accessories to the look. Chinatu prepares to use a curling iron on Chihara's hair to continue the makeover. The two of them begin a dedicated makeup session. Chinatu finishes the first style and excitedly tells Chihara she looks like a porcelain doll with big eyes. She then moves immediately to the next look. Chinatu tells Chihara she looks like a doll's descendant and wonders what her parents look like. Chihara says she is being made to blush as they move to the next outfit. Chinatu adds an eye patch and a collar to Chihara's look, declaring that her cuteness is out of this world as they prepare for the finale. Chinatu completes the final most intense look and screams with delight at how cute Chihara has become. Chinatu sighs and tells Mai that their time together was very fun. Chinatu wants everyone to know that they are friends. She admits to herself that she got so excited she lost control, but she thinks it is fine because Mai looked cute. They stand together while Mai eats. Chinatu suggests doing this again sometime afternoon next time. Later, Kuroki looks at a photo of the makeover on his phone and thinks it looks like a magazine cover and is more impressive than cute. In the hallway, girls whisper that Chihara's body felt cold like a doll when they touched her. Kuroki sits at his desk during a lesson. Kuroki shivers and thinks to himself that today is quite cold. He notices a cold wind coming in from the window and wonders if he is the only one who gets cold easily. Chihara reaches out and shuts the window. Kuroki thinks he really should have worn a sweater. Kuroki is grateful she closed the window and wonders if she was also feeling the chill. The school chime rings. Chihara reaches her hand toward Kuroki's face. Chihara suddenly grabs Kuroki's face with both hands, causing him to yell out. Kuroki blushes intensely as she holds his cheeks firmly. Chihara keeps her intense gaze fixed on Kuroki as she holds his face between her hands. Kuroki feels the warmth of her palms and thinks about how soft her skin is. Classmates stare at the pair and wonder if they are about to kiss. Kuroki gasps and tells Chihara that everyone is watching them. Chihara tells him that he seemed cold. Kuroki is startled and lets out a cry as she continues to hold him. Chihara reaches into her bag and pulls out a blanket. Kuroki realizes she noticed his shivering earlier. She tells him he will catch a cold if he does not use it. She explains the blanket was a gift she does not need, giving her an excuse to let him have it. The teacher enters the room and tells everyone to take their seats because class is about to start. Kuroki sits at his desk wrapped in the cat-patterned blanket. Chihara tells him he looks cute today, which makes him feel both grateful and deeply embarrassed. Kuroki feels exhausted at the end of a long week. Chihara approaches him and says it is time to go home together. Kuroki is surprised that Chihara has recently developed a habit of waiting for him after school. He knows she sometimes goes home with another friend, but that person is often busy with a large social circle. Kuroki thinks it is strange that she chooses to spend time with him even if he is just a secondary option. Chihara reaches out and touches Kuroki, making him yell in shock. Chihara explains she wondered if he was hungry, and Kuroki questions how she knew just by touching him. He eventually agrees that it is normal to be hungry after class. Chihara asks if they should go, which leaves Kuroki surprised as they stand outside a convenience store. Kuroki imagines that a flashy girl like Chihara would usually choose a fancy tapioca milk tea with fresh cream for an after-school snack. Kuroki asks if she comes here often, and she says she does sometimes while holding a 100-yen coin. As Chihara looks at the cheap snacks, Kuroki thinks she is like an elementary school student who immediately spends their pocket money. They leave the store after buying something. Chihara stares at her purchase while they both thank the shopkeeper. Chihara holds a piece of convenience store chicken and describes it as super crunchy and crispy. She asks Kuroki if he has ever tried it, and he says he has not. She admits she would never eat meat as a snack by herself, but being with a friend makes her want to eat it now. Chihara suggests they eat and thanks him before taking a large, crunchy bite of the chicken. A bit of oil remains on Chihara's lip after she takes a bite. Chihara licks the oil off her finger and mentions it. Kuroki's heart races and he blushes at the sight. Chihara asks if he has any napkins, and Kuroki offers to look for some while noticing how she is eating. Chihara holds her finger to her lip and tells him the spot is right here while Kuroki looks at her nervously. Kuroki thinks it is embarrassing to wipe her face even if it were for a family member. Chihara calls his name. Kuroki agrees to help. He begins to rub the oil off her lip with a napkin while she waits for him. Chihara suggests that he can rub her lip more. Kuroki pulls away in a panic and says that he simply cannot do that. Chihara asks if her face looks okay now. Kuroki thinks she looks happy for some reason and tells her it is probably fine. Chihara decides it is time for another bite of her chicken, but suddenly falls backward. Kuroki is startled by her clumsy move. Chihara asks if it would have been better to wait until she finished eating before wiping the oil away. Kuroki reacts with extreme surprise at her logic. A question appears asking if anyone truly understands what is being said in this situation. Kuroki looks through the romantic manga section of a bookstore to find a specific release for his sister. He finds the book he was looking for and slides it off the shelf. Chihara creeps up behind him and asks if he likes that manga, noting that it is the latest volume. Kuroki jumps in shock and explains that he is only buying it because his sister wanted it. He admits he did not expect to see her at the store. Kuroki asks Chihara what she is doing at the bookstore. Chihara shows him a magazine about building a beautiful castle and says she came to buy it. Kuroki asks if she is the type to collect every volume. Kuroki holds the manga he bought for his sister. Chinatu appears in a thought bubble asking about the story, and Kuroki explains it is about an aspiring idol who fights and loves. Chihara listens and acknowledges his explanation. Chihara expresses that she wants to read the manga too. Kuroki is surprised and points out that the book is intended for elementary school students. Chihara points out that Kuroki is reading it as well. Kuroki admits he reads anything but says he would imagine her reading something else. Kuroki imagines Chihara reading about her favorite things like chicken and cat butts. He suggests she read the manga first since his little sister is currently busy with homework. Chihara takes the book and thanks him. Kuroki notices that she seems genuinely happy to receive it. Kuroki blushes as he realizes they are now at a point where they lend and borrow things. He imagines a small version of them sharing books. Kuroki thinks to himself that they have become very close friends. Chihara reaches into her bag to get something for Kuroki. Chihara hands over the magazine about building castles and tells Kuroki he can have it. Kuroki reaches the front of his home and thanks Chihara as they part ways. Kuroki's little sister peeps out from behind a wall and calls out to her big brother. The sister welcomes him home and immediately asks if he successfully bought the manga she wanted. The little sister is full of excitement and begs to read the book right away since she has been waiting for it. Kuroki pulls a book out of his bag to give to her. The sister looks at the cover of the castle building magazine and reacts with surprise. Kuroki watches as his little sister crouches on the floor in total despair because she did not receive the manga she wanted. At her own home, Chihara dances around happily while welcoming her father back. She twirls while holding the manga Kuroki lent her, and her father asks her what it is. She shows him the book about fighting idols and tells him he is not allowed to read it later. Later at their house, Chihara's father asks her to come over for a moment. He hands her a bag of fruit and asks her to take it to their neighbor Matsumoto-san to return a favor for some vegetables. Chihara agrees to go. Her father starts to tell her some news he heard about the neighbor. Chihara looks shocked when she learns that Matsumoto-san has adopted a cat. Chihara walks through the commercial district and notices a shop window advertising toys for cats. She arrives at the neighbor's house clutching cat toys. Matsumoto-san welcomes her and tells her the kitten is there. Chihara explains the fruit is a thank you for the vegetables and Matsumoto-san thanks her for the gesture. Matsumoto-san tells Chihara to wait there while she goes to get some tea and sweets. Chihara thanks her and says she appreciates the hospitality. Chihara sits alone in the room and starts looking around for the cat. She hears a step nearby and turns her head toward the sound. The cat appears in the doorway and looks at Chihara with confusion. Chihara fixes an intense gaze on the cat. The cat becomes scared and backs away from her. Chihara throws a toy toward it, but the animal continues to retreat. Chihara watches as the cat reaches out and touches the toy. She moves in very close to the cat, which makes the animal look frightened. Chihara remains low to the ground and stares silently at the cat. She reaches for the zipper on her hoodie and begins to open it. Matsumoto-san returns with a tray of snacks and is surprised to see Chihara zipping her hoodie back up. Matsumoto-san remarks that they seem to have gotten along well. Chihara has the cat tucked inside her hoodie and confirms that they have. Matsumoto-san mentions she just got the cat yesterday and notes that it is very docile. Chihara agrees. Chihara looks down at the cat and says that it is cute and warm. Matsumoto-san explains that she hasn't given the cat a name yet and asks Chihara if she has any suggestions for a cute name. The white cat rustles as it looks up. Chihara holds the cat and stares directly at it. At school, Chihara hums to herself as she walks down the hallway with Kuroki. Kuroki greets Chihara and she returns the greeting. Chihara asks if something good happened. Chihara leans in close to show Kuroki her phone. She tells him her neighbor recently got a cat and shows him a photo. Kuroki says it is a cute white cat and asks for its name. Chihara says the cat is named Kuro and Kuroki asks why. Chinatu tells Mai her class is lively while a student in the background cheers about a purchase. Chihara wonders if something is going to happen and Chinatu asks if she knows about a recent trend. Chinatu mentions something called Russian cream, leaving Chihara confused. Chinatu explains that Russian cream puffs involve filling them with spicy sauces like mustard or wasabi. Chihara asks if Chinatu has ever tried it, but Chinatu says she prefers to just enjoy her food. Chinatu imagines what it would be like if she joined the trend. Chinatu thinks she would be happy if her crush were the one to eat the spicy puff. Chihara asks if that would really make her happy. Chinatu says she would eat it herself if her crush were not around. She waves goodbye as she leaves to get ready for her next class. Chihara thinks the game sounds fun but worries about the pain in her mouth. Kuroki approaches her. A group of boys asks Kuroki why he does not join them for Russian cream puffs. Kuroki is confused and asks what they mean. The boys explain that the modified puff is filled with mustard, wasabi, and Tabasco. They admit they want to see Kuroki in pain because he always has a dull expression. They show Kuroki that there are only 2 puffs left and one is rigged. Kuroki agrees to participate. Kuroki asks if they are trying to troll him. They claim they are just curious about the result. Chihara steps up and announces she will take one of the pieces. Kuroki calls out Chihara's name in shock. Chihara bites into the puff and her face immediately turns red as she realizes she got the spicy one. The boys are stunned by her reaction. Chihara looks at the final cream puff left on the plate. She opens her mouth to eat the second one as well. Chihara chews the second puff while Kuroki and the other students watch her in silence. Chihara finishes eating and tells Kuroki that the puff was not spicy and did not hurt at all. The boys who provided the food let out a sigh of relief. One of the students realizes that Chihara actually ate the altered cream puff and points it out. Kuroki reacts with confusion. A classmate asks Chihara if she is truly okay. Kuroki watches her while blushing. Chihara explains that she did not want to waste the puff since someone had to eat it. She admits that it tasted bad because of the custard mixed with wasabi, mustard, and Tabasco, but says she is fine. Kuroki gasps at her explanation. The entire class apologizes to Chihara for trying to pull a trick and for failing to read the atmosphere correctly. Chihara leans in very close to Kuroki's face. Kuroki is startled by her proximity and yells her name in surprise. The other students whisper that the 2 of them are definitely going to kiss. Kuroki tells Chihara that her closeness does not hurt. Chihara looks at him and says she is glad. Kuroki addresses Chihara while his classmates watch them intently from the background. Kuroki points out that she has a little bit of sauce remaining on her right hand. Chihara reacts with a flame-in response by opening her mouth and scrunching her face. Kuroki yells out her name because she has scared him with her strange expression. Kuroki is wandering around on his day off and thinks about what to eat. He notes that he visits this area often but has never tried the restaurants located in the back alleys. He comes across a Chinese restaurant and decides to check it out since it appears to be open. Kuroki takes a seat and notices that the restaurant has suddenly filled up with people despite being empty moments before. He looks around at the other customers and realizes they all seem to be part of the same group. He sees 2 men shaking hands and deduces that they are meeting for the first time after interacting online. The waiter takes Kuroki's order for super spicy mapo tofu while he continues to ponder the nature of the gathering. He listens to the chatter and plans to go home immediately after finishing his food because of the long travel distance. Chihara enters the restaurant and offers a greeting. Kuroki is shocked to see his classmate in such a place. The entire room welcomes her and says they were waiting for her. Kuroki hides behind a menu and wonders why she is the center of attention. People begin asking her for photos as the waiter delivers Kuroki's food. He remains confused about her relationship with the other customers. Chihara takes a seat at the counter and Kuroki watches her, still trying to understand the situation. She orders 1 gyoza and the rest of the people in the restaurant react with loud cheers. Everyone starts clapping for her. Kuroki wonders why they are all shouting the order along with her. He watches the crowd continue to applaud and talk, still unable to grasp what is happening around him. Kuroki decides to stay and watch Chihara instead of going home because he is curious. He feels a bit ashamed for watching without permission, but he continues eating to avoid looking suspicious. Chihara ties her hair back while waiting. The waiter serves Chihara her plate of gyoza. She looks at the 5 dumplings in front of her. Chihara says grace before her meal. She picks up her chopsticks and lifts one of the gyoza from the plate. Chihara takes a bite of the gyoza. Chihara continues to eat her lunch as the crowd and Kuroki watch her in silence. The restaurant goes quiet as everyone waits for her reaction. A man asks her to her thoughts on her 23rd restaurant exploration. Kuroki is surprised by how quiet everyone has become. Chihara provides an analytical review of the pan-fried gyoza. She praises its nutritional balance and says the meat juice is just the right amount. Kuroki stares at her in total confusion. A man asks Chihara for her recommended way of eating. She suggests eating them plain first to appreciate the flavor and says she doesn't even mix her sauces while waiting. Kuroki is stunned to hear Chihara speaking so much. He hears another student mention her handle Gyoza Pakupaku and express his joy at hearing her review in person. Kuroki realizes that Chihara is the icon of a fan club. He sees a new member tell her how glad he is that she likes gyoza. This is the first time Kuroki has heard about any of this. He thinks about how he never would have imagined her having this hobby. Chihara nods and allows someone to take her picture. Kuroki observes that she seems very used to being the center of attention. A man asks Chihara to hold a giant gyoza plushie for a photo, and she agrees. Kuroki reflects on how she never mentioned this to him and how nobody at school talks about it. Kuroki blushes and realizes that if nobody else knows about this, he is the only one in her school life who does. He feels a sense of honor. Kuroki questions his own line of thought after realizing he is the only student aware of Chihara's secret life. The following day, Kuroki asks Chihara what her favorite food is, and she tells him it is ninachichi soba. The teacher informs the class that Monday is a holiday and there will be no lectures. Kuroki celebrates the 3-day weekend in his head and wonders if he should act more like a high schooler by inviting someone out. He thinks about Chihara. He quickly rejects the idea, sweating as he decides they are not close enough for such an invitation. Chihara watches Kuroki from her seat with a steady stare. The scene shifts to a moment just before as Chihara reacts with surprise. Chinatu asks Chihara if she intends to invite a friend to play, and Chihara responds with a nod. Chinatu tells her to go ahead and invite the person, but Chihara admits she has no experience with this and does not know what to say. Chinatu suggests a simple way to ask for a friend's availability, assuming the person in question is already a close friend. Chinatu is suddenly struck with the realization that the person Chihara wants to invite is not a girl. Chihara confirms Chinatu's suspicion with a nod and then notices Kuroki watching them from a distance. Chinatu realizes that Chihara cannot afford to be rejected. Chinatu decides to be there for Mai because she needs help. In her imagination, Chinatu applies makeup to Chihara as they prepare a new look. Chinatu excitedly tells Chihara to come to her house before the invitation to play, promising to make everything go well. In the present, Kuroki checks his phone while sitting in the classroom. Chihara sends a message asking Kuroki to meet her at the station and wait for her. Kuroki is amazed at how fast Chihara left the room after sending the text. He wonders what she is planning to do. Kuroki arrives at the station. He waits as instructed, feeling a mix of excitement and embarrassment while realizing he follows her lead often. Kuroki considers her flashy and scary as he waits, trying to guess her thoughts. He spots Chihara approaching. Chihara arrives with her hair styled in twin tails and apologizes for keeping him waiting. Kuroki reacts with shock to her new hairstyle and asks where they are going, then realizes he should give her a compliment. He tells her she looks good. Chihara asks if he was curious about her thoughts and tells him he can go about his day without her if he prefers. Kuroki finds the interaction strange but likes that she wanted to meet up and changed her hair for him. Kuroki thinks that having these types of thoughts about Chihara might be rude. He remembers how it all started when he felt afraid of her on their first day in class. Kuroki decides he is glad they met even if it was a misunderstanding. He feels like he is maturing. Chihara tries to get his attention by calling his name. Chihara pokes Kuroki in the cheek and asks if he can hear her. He notes that her nail is scratching him. They both apologize. Chihara tells Kuroki that she wants to see him even on days when they do not have school. Chihara asks him if he is free this weekend. Kuroki is left speechless by her question. He continues to stare in total disbelief. Kuroki is so stunned that he momentarily wonders what a weekend even is. Chihara keeps her eyes fixed on him. Kuroki questions if she is actually serious about her invitation. A summary reminds that Chihara asked Kuroki to hang out during the 3-day weekend. It is now the current day. Kuroki tries to calm his nerves and reminds himself that they are just hanging out, not on a date. He remembers meticulously lint rolling his clothes earlier and feels like he is in an alternate reality. Kuroki thinks meeting Chihara outside of school feels very different and tries to stay calm by imagining he is being pranked. Chihara walks up and calls his name. Chihara apologizes for making him wait. Kuroki is overwhelmed by her appearance in casual clothes and tells her that she looks good. He assures her that he was not waiting long while wondering what it will be like walking next to someone who looks that good. He tells himself that he probably looks like a mere mascot character to others and decides not to be self-conscious about it. Kuroki asks how she traveled there and she answers that she took the train. He resolves to stay relaxed since she was the one who invited him. He asks if she has any specific plans. Kuroki asks if there is anywhere in particular she wants to go. Chihara realizes that he was correct. Kuroki suggests they just walk around for a bit and Chihara nods in agreement. They find a sign on the door of the cat cafe saying it is closed for the day to check the health of the cats. Chihara looks discouraged by the closure. Kuroki thinks they are being punished for not planning anything and suggests they go somewhere else. They arrive at the entrance of a cinema. Kuroki asks her what she thinks of seeing a movie. They go to buy tickets but find that the only available seats are far apart. Chihara looks depressed, so Kuroki suggests they leave and find another location. Every restaurant and cafe they pass is packed with crowds of people. Kuroki realizes he failed to estimate how crowded the district would be on a weekend. Kuroki jumps in surprise when he hears a sudden sound behind him. Chihara explains that her shoe broke while they were walking, and Kuroki worries about how she will get around. They find a quiet park nearby with a playground structure. Kuroki asks Chihara to sit down for a second while he figures out what to do. When Kuroki turns around, he is shocked to find that Chihara has disappeared. He notices that her shoes have been left behind on the bench. He looks at the tube of the playground slide and wonders if she is hiding inside. Kuroki calls out to ask if she is in there and offers an apology. From inside the structure, Chihara tells him that the day wasn't fun at all because she failed to prepare anything. She says she has become depressed and feels like she cannot even make it back home now. Kuroki tells her that it is not her fault and admits that he did not do anything for the outing either. He tells her that he was still really happy that she wanted to invite him to hang out. Kuroki asks her to please come out from her hiding spot. Kuroki finds Chihara and tells her that he has a pair of shoes she can use. He presents her with a pair of cat-themed sandals. He explains that he tried to pick a pair that matched her taste and tells her it is okay to discard them later if she does not like them. Chihara responds to his gesture with a genuine smile. She tells him the sandals are nice. Kuroki feels relieved, and they decide to go buy candied strawberries before heading home. In a hypothetical zombie scenario, Kuroki and Chihara are the only survivors at the school. Chihara asks if he is hungry as his stomach lets out a loud grumble. Kuroki offers to his lunch with her since they are unsure when help will come. While the zombies bang on the door, Chihara taps Kuroki on the shoulder to get his attention. She reaches out and puts her hand on his face. Kuroki wonders if she is giving up on their survival. He tells her that he knows they might die but insists that now is not the right time for whatever she is doing. Chihara leans forward and bites his arm. She expresses relief while continuing to chew. Kuroki stares at the fresh bite mark left on his skin. Chinatu and Chihara pose closely together for a photograph. Chihara is shown wearing a stylish black dress with lace detailing. Kuroki's little sister perches on his shoulders while he stands in a white space. Chihara hugs a black cat plushie while a message of appreciation to the readers is displayed. Chihara stands in her school uniform and holds her hand near her face. Kuroki sits in his classroom and reflects that the weekend was messy but ultimately very good. He tells himself it is time to return to his normal school life. Kuroki looks at Chihara and vividly recalls the way she looked at him during their time together. He holds a pen and feels anxious, wondering why he cannot stop thinking about her. He compares the feeling to the lingering memories of a very fun vacation. He remembers seeing Chihara's genuine smile for the first time and wonders if she will ever smile at him like that again. He tells himself that he should not be imagining those kinds of things. Kuroki thinks that their outing felt like a dream and realizes such events probably will not happen often. He worries that if he brings up that day, Chihara might not even know what he is talking about. He questions if the weekend was actually just a dream. Chihara turns to look at him while they are at a coffee shop and tells him to hold on. Kuroki decides that even if it were a dream, he does not mind because it was a very nice one. Kuroki yells in shock and asks where they are and when they arrived. Chihara tells him they are at her house. Kuroki sits at the counter and asks why he is there. Chihara explains that after they went home together, she invited him in for tea. Kuroki mentions the coffee shop and thinks they had an embarrassing misunderstanding last time. He blushes. Chihara says the shop is her father's hobby, but it is closed for the day while he is out. Kuroki finds the place very relaxing and thanks her for the invitation. Kuroki asks if it is really okay to stay and worries about meeting her father. Chihara tells him it is fine and asks him to wait while she prepares some coffee. Kuroki watches her grind the beans and thinks she learned the skill from her father. Chihara pours water over the grounds and serves a hot cup of coffee, telling him thanks for waiting. Kuroki expresses his happiness because he rarely drinks coffee this way. Chihara watches as he gets ready to take a sip. Kuroki thinks the coffee smells good. In reality, it has no odor at all. He wonders if his nose is clogged. Chihara stares at him. Kuroki takes a drink and is immediately hit with a strange sensation. He suddenly sees a vision of creatures fighting on a plane. Kuroki asks if seeing other worlds is a sign the coffee is good. He then sees a UFO appear in his vision. Chihara says she wants to keep drinking. Kuroki finds it impressive that she relied entirely on her intuition to make it. The cup is drained. The narration explains the coffee was intended as an apology. Kuroki notices that Chihara has left the counter and is now standing right in front of him, leaving him confused as to what she is doing. Kuroki is shocked when Chihara leaves her spot at the counter and sits down right next to him at his table. Chihara leans in close to Kuroki and says they should do this again, making him panic, as he wonders if they are really going to continue their conversation from such a close distance. Chihara tells Kuroki that she wants to hang out with him again because she would feel lonely if their interactions just stopped at this point. Chihara asks Kuroki if he is okay with her request, causing him to break out in a nervous sweat. Kuroki blushes intensely and replies that he is glad to hang out if she is okay with someone like him, realizing that their growing closeness is not just a dream. After Kuroki goes home, Chihara's father arrives and asks if she made some coffee, and she explains that her friend had come over to visit. Chihara's father decides to try the coffee and pours himself a cup to taste it. Chihara's father immediately spits the coffee out in shock and screams that it tastes horrible, while Chihara watches him with a blank expression. Kuroki washes his hands in the school's rooftop bathroom, thinking about how empty and relaxing the area usually is. Kuroki thinks to himself that the only person he ever runs into there is Chihara, but a group of intimidating muscular upperclassmen suddenly bursts into the room. Kuroki looks at the group of tough students in complete shock and confusion. The lead upperclassman asks if he is Kuroki, and Kuroki nervously confirms his identity in a panic. Kuroki is frozen with fear and desperately thinks to himself that he should run away from the menacing group. A handsome young man with messy light hair emerges from the shadow of the group and greets Kuroki. The young man calls out Kuroki's name. The newcomer reveals himself to be Hibiya, an old friend of Kuroki's, who came all the way to see his face, leaving Kuroki completely surprised. Kuroki asks Hibiya why he came all the way from his school and who those tough guys are, but Hibiya only replies that he defeated them with punches and kicks. Kuroki tells Hibiya that he should have just waited normally instead of fighting them, even if he was just defending himself. Hibiya admits that he only fought the guys because he wanted to play with Kuroki, prompting Kuroki to touch his chin and remark on how honest he is. Hibiya confirms that he plans to go to Kuroki's classroom because they are friends, but suddenly notices that they are being followed down the hallway. Another handsome boy is being guided to Kuroki's classroom by a group of excited girls praising how pretty the school is compared to his all-boys school. The handsome boy is revealed to be Kazami, another old friend of Kuroki's, who happily calls out his name upon spotting him. Kazami laughs cheerfully, but Hibiya immediately covers Kazami's face with his hand while greeting him as Kuroki watches them. Hibiya tells Kazami to take a seat while apologizing to Kuroki, while Kazami happily accepts the seat from the girls. The three of them sit together in the classroom, creating a tense atmosphere as Kazami smiles cheerfully while Hibiya looks grumpy. Some classmates whisper behind a curtain, wondering if Kuroki is actually pretty popular since he is hanging out with such flashy guys. Chihara suddenly pulls open the curtain and stares at them, causing the classmates to yell in shock. Inside the classroom, Hibiya tells Kazami that he is a bother and should go home, but Kazami happily fires back that Hibiya is also a bother for traveling all this way, while Kuroki and other classmates nervously watch and wonder if they should call a teacher. Hibiya claims that he is more of a friend to Kuroki than Kazami is telling him to go home and not to use the school's restrooms. Kazami smiles calmly and replies that only Hibiya thinks that. Hibiya commands Kazami to be quiet because he slept on Kuroki's right side during daycare, but Kazami argues back that it does not matter because he slept on Kuroki's left side. Hibiya yells back that Kuroki is right-handed, as if that makes the right side superior. As the two friends continue their absurd argument by insulting each other, Kuroki watches them in total disbelief, completely unable to understand what is happening. Chihara trembles and stammers Kuroki's name as she watches the two attractive guys argue over him, while other girls behind her react with excitement. At that exact moment, the entire class is left thinking the same thing about the bizarre situation. The classmates look at the intimidating Yankee, the prince-like boy, and the flashy girl, and wonder who exactly Kuroki is to be surrounded by all of them. When the school bell rings, Hibiya and Kazami decide to take a break, and leave carrying a stiff Kuroki out of the classroom like a board, which leaves Chihara shocked. Chihara continues to tremble as she watches them from behind a wall while Kuroki asks his friends to please let him down. While Hibiya and Kazami argue over how tall Kuroki looks when they carry him, Chihara sits at her desk and sends a text message to Chinatu asking what is a friendlier activity than a sleepover. Chihara holds her phone tightly and waits anxiously for her friend's reply. Chihara receives a text message from Chinatu stating that there is nothing friendlier to do than a sleepover. In response, Chihara walks right back behind the curtains, leaving her classmates calling after her in complete confusion. On another day at school, Kuroki walks into the classroom wishing his two friends had not stood out so much when they visited and notices that Chihara is already at her desk. Kuroki is startled to see Chihara sitting with a stack of vacation magazines staring directly at him. Kuroki is surprised to realize that Chihara reads vacation magazines and tries to imagine what it would be like for her to go on a trip. Kuroki nervously greets Chihara in the morning, but she only stares back at him in silence. Chihara breaks the silence by asking Kuroki if he prefers to travel domestically or go abroad for vacations, causing him to react with extreme surprise. During class, Chihara reads a travel guide for Osaka while in low spirits, prompting the teacher to remind her that the field trip is still some time away. Chihara reflects on how Kuroki's two flashy friends invaded their classroom the other day. As the teacher mentions wanting to go to Hokkaido, Chihara is busy planning a way to improve her relationship with Kuroki, feeling unhappy that his other friends have already had a sleepover with him, while she has not. Chihara gets lost in her thoughts, reflecting on her goals and imagining how she can achieve her own special moments with Kuroki. Chihara imagines that holding a brand new pillow fight sleepover with Kuroki would be a massive success, leaving his other friends in complete despair. With a reckless determination, Chihara resolves to win and succeed in her goal as the school bell rings in the background. In the hallway, Chinatu recovers from her choked reaction and asks Chihara if she really wants to have a sleepover with the boy she mentioned earlier. Chihara confirms that some of Kuroki's friends appeared at school, which makes her feel like her own friendship with him is in danger. Chihara explains that she believes a sleepover will make her his best friend, leaving Chinatu feeling slightly doubtful. Chinatu realizes that Chihara does not seem to care about gender differences at all, and worries that she is going to attempt something completely over the top. Chinatu reflects on how common it is for girls to get jealous of a friend's other friends, realizing that Chihara has been feeling very jealous lately. Chinatu contemplates that any normal boy would be completely turned off and turn down such a reckless sleepover request. As Chihara looks at travel brochure, featuring extreme outdoor activities like zip lines and obstacle courses, Chinatu resolves to closely monitor her to ensure things do not go completely out of control. Chinatu calls out to Chihara and warns her that she should not plan activities that are typically only meant for minors. Chinatu cautions Chihara that trying something neither of them is used to might end up causing trouble between them. Upon hearing the warning, Chihara immediately falls into a deep state of gloom and disappointment. Feeling a bit guilty for dampening Chihara's spirits, Chinatu resolves to take the lead and do whatever she can to help guide her friend. Chinatu suddenly tells Chihara to wait, catching her attention as she starts to make a new suggestion. Chinatu excitedly points out that the school's upcoming outdoor field trip is starting soon, suggesting it as the perfect opportunity. Chihara makes a determined face as she processes Chinatu's suggestion. She looks up with sparkling eyes as she realizes the outdoor trip is the perfect opportunity. The teacher instructs the class to sit down so they can discuss the upcoming camping trip and divide into groups, which immediately makes Kuroki feel nervous. Kuroki reflects that he has never liked making groups because he always just teamed up with Hibiya and Kazami during middle school. Kuroki decides that he should stop being so passive in high school and try inviting people to join his group himself. As the teacher tells everyone to form their groups within 30 minutes, Kuroki nervously considers asking Chihara while she stares intently in his direction. Chihara notices that Kuroki is not looking in her direction at all, making her feel disappointed. Kuroki stands near Chihara, debating in his head whether he should be direct or ask her normally to avoid sounding creepy. As Chihara stares directly at him, Kuroki sweats and admits to himself that he has no idea how to communicate with others in these social situations. Chihara suddenly turns to Kuroki and asks him to form a group with her, startling him so much that his heart starts racing. Before they can continue their conversation, two other girls approach Chihara and ask if she has a second to talk. One of the girls asks Chihara if she has already joined a group, leaving both Chihara and Kuroki completely frozen in suspense. Kuroki speaks up on Chihara's behalf, telling the other girls that Chihara is forming a group with him. Chihara is left wide-eyed and completely speechless by his sudden statement. Kuroki suddenly realizes what he just did and panics. Kuroki mentally scolds himself for answering without asking for Chihara's opinion first, but the other girl happily accepts his explanation and says that it is great. The girls explain they are just two people short and invite both of them to join, prompting Chihara to unconsciously raise her hands in surprise, while Kuroki happily accepts. Kuroki apologizes to Chihara for speaking for her, but she tells him that it is perfectly fine. Chihara holds her palm up in front of Kuroki, leaving him to wonder if she is asking for a high five. Chihara continues to stare directly at him with her hand raised. Chihara suddenly blushes deeply, causing the other girls in the classroom to whisper that they did not know she could make a face like that. The girls tell Kuroki and Chihara that they will leave the shopping to them, reminding them to buy some sweets, while explaining that the curry ingredients will be bought on the day of the trip, prompting Chihara to ask Kuroki if he has ever eaten curry on a camping trip before. Chihara explains that she and her family used to eat beef curry made by her father during their hikes. Kuroki realizes that since her house is a coffee shop, it makes perfect sense that they would serve beef curry, which Chihara describes as homemade food. Kuroki expresses his excitement about cooking either chicken or pork for their upcoming trip, as they enter a store to buy snacks, where he looks at chips and wonders if a large pack of salty and sweet flavors will be enough. Kuroki calls Chihara's name and finds her holding a pack of dumplings instead of traditional camping snacks. Kuroki asks Chihara if she likes dumplings, and when she wonders how he knew, he points out that she is literally staring at them. Kuroki smiles and suggests that making dumplings together on their camping trip might actually be fun. Chihara is struck with a sudden idea that surprises her. Chihara suggests that they make curry dumplings for the trip, leaving Kuroki surprised by how quickly she agreed to the concept. On the school bus before departure, Chihara approaches Kuroki and asks if she can sit beside him. Chihara repeats her request to sit beside him, making both Kuroki and the classmate in the seat look on nervously. The classmate sitting next to Kuroki claims he only wanted to sniff the seat and immediately leaves to find another spot, leaving Kuroki completely dumbfounded by his explanation. After Chihara sits down, Kuroki asks her if she is okay with not sitting by the window and offers to switch, but she tells him that she is fine. As Chihara fidgets nervously in her seat, she suddenly nudges Kuroki, which catches him completely off guard. Chihara claims she was just checking if she did something wrong, even though she secretly wanted to nudge him. Chinatu offers Chihara some sweets, leaving Chihara confused by how she phrased the offer. Chinatu explains that Chihara cannot eat their group's D sweets because she bought these specific ones for herself, while Kuroki looks out the window and notes that they can still barely see their school as they begin their journey. Chinatu apologizes to Chihara, saying she did not mean to sour her mood by questioning the speed of her plans. Kuroki tries to lighten the mood by suggesting that their current situation is just a way to celebrate their departure. Chihara takes a bite of her biscuit and breaks off a piece of it. Chihara offers Kuroki a piece of her biscuit, giving him a strong sense of déjà vu, as he remembers when she fed him long gum. Kuroki accepts the snack with a quiet thank you, while silently wondering why she always eats her food and if she is using him to check for poison. Kuroki places the piece of biscuit in his mouth and begins to chew. Kuroki is taken aback by the unusual flavor and asks what it is, prompting Chihara to explain that they are mackerel-flavored biscuits. After arriving at the camping site, the teacher runs through a checklist of the containers, stove, and ingredients with the group, and a classmate confirms everything is ready. The teacher remarks that only the girls in the group seem excited, and the female classmate enthusiastically agrees that they are a happy group. Kuroki hears laughter in the distance and realizes that Chihara is currently missing from the group. Chihara arrives wearing an apron and pigtails, apologizing for taking so long to get ready, while her classmates and Kuroki marvel at how cute she looks. Wearing his cooking gear, Kuroki feels deeply embarrassed, as if he is an elementary school student cooking for the first time when Chihara calls out his name. Chihara apologizes for being late while a classmate tells her she looks cute in her apron, prompting Kuroki to quickly apologize for deciding on their group without asking her opinion first. When Kuroki asks if something happened while she was getting ready, Chihara explains that she could not find her apron, so she had to get a spare one from her friend. Chihara looks gloomy and admits that she really wanted to wear her favorite dragon apron that her father bought for her. As they take care of the curry ingredients, Kuroki asks Chihara how they should divide the work, and she immediately says she wants to handle the onions. Kuroki tells Chihara that she can cut the onions to whatever size she wants, leading her to ask if she really can do whatever she wants with them. Chihara states that she wants to bash the onions to pieces and fry them repeatedly, which Kuroki notes is surprisingly normal. Chihara mentions she heard that frying onions more makes the curry taste better, but Kuroki points out that frying them until they turn an amber color will take a very long time. Kuroki asks her if she is sure about the long process, and when she confirms, he resolves to do his best to help. Chihara stands closely and stares intensely at Kuroki as he begins cutting the other ingredients. Chihara tells Kuroki to use the cat paw technique to curl his fingers while cutting, which Kuroki thinks is a cooking tip people usually learn from their mothers when they are young. Kuroki nervously mimics claw hands instead of cat paws, making a pose and asking her if he is doing it correctly. Chihara silently reaches out and physically folds Kuroki's fingers down to correct his grip, leaving him flustered. As the curry preparation proceeds, Chihara suddenly calls out Kuroki's name, causing him to react in a panic. Chihara points out that the onions have completely disappeared, and Kuroki initially thinks they just melted before realizing that is not supposed to happen so quickly. Chihara admits she was worried that someone had eaten all the onions, prompting Kuroki to think to himself that none of them would ever eat fried onions as a snack. A classmate calls out that the rice is done, and Kuroki responds that all they have left is to add the curry roux, while Chihara quietly tries to take the blame for the missing onions. The female classmate suggests they all do a countdown and add the curry roux together, which the other group members think sounds fun. The group coordinates their movements and drops their pieces of curry roux into the pot at the same time. While her classmates comment on how great the curry smells despite the lack of onions, Chihara looks closely at the finished meal. Chihara shows a gentle content expression as she looks at the food. Seeing her look so content, Kuroki feels glad and happy too. At night, Kuroki gets embarrassed over his previous thoughts as Chihara prepares to serve him a massive portion of food because she thinks he was a good boy. A girl named Fansawa Mabumi resolves to follow Chihara for the day to discover the secrets of her private life and find out why she is rumored to be a Jurai girl. Mabumi spots Chihara going shopping and secretly follows her into a store, wondering what she plans to buy. Mabumi is shocked when Chihara picks up a small round case, assuming she is looking at a specific brand of red eyeshadow. Mabumi quickly realizes they are actually in a stationery store stamp corner and that Chihara is holding a red ink pad designed for traditional stamps. Bewildered by Chihara's choices, Mabumi continues to stalk her as Chihara heads into an arcade by herself. Mabumi continues to watch Chihara closely as she stands in front of a claw machine. Mabumi assumes Chihara wants to win a black cat plushie that suits her, but Chihara is actually focused on a machine filled with a stack of chocolate bars because she is hungry. Chihara successfully knocks down the chocolate tower to win the candy, leaving Mabumi impressed by her skill, but amused by how she leans her weight heavily on the machine to play. Mabumi reflects on how Chihara moves entirely at her own pace, before noticing that she is finally heading into a clothing store. Mabumi eagerly waits to see her try on clothes, hoping to discover why she is rumored to be a Jurai girl, but she is shocked when Chihara walks out wearing an incredibly eccentric outfit. As Chihara happily runs away in her new outfit, Mabumi is left standing outside, completely overwhelmed and unable to comprehend anything she saw. Later, Chihara holds her phone and explains to Kuroki over a call that she picked the outfit herself and tried to add some volume to the top, to which Kuroki replies that he does not hate it. At night, Kuroki lies down in his tent, reflecting on how the camping groups are naturally separated by gender. Kuroki thinks to himself that it is always a bit embarrassing having other people look at his face while he sleeps, so he finds it reassuring to sleep alone without worrying about his sleeping posture causing trouble. Kuroki's peace is interrupted when he notices a creepy silhouette of a face and two hands pressing against his tent wall from the outside. Kuroki initially panics thinking it is seriously a ghost, but he is exasperated when the silhouette outside turns the handprints into peace signs to greet him. Kuroki panics and wonders if he should just pretend that he cannot see the silhouette on his tent wall. Chihara whispers Kuroki's name and asks him to help her. Chihara unzips Kuroki's tent and asks if she can come inside, leaving him completely startled. Kuroki warns her that she cannot come in because they will be in trouble if a teacher finds out, but Chihara simply shushes him. Ignoring his warning, Chihara crawls inside the tent anyway and apologizes for the intrusion. Chihara immediately lies down to sleep and wishes him a good night, while Kuroki frantically calls her too whimsical and worries about what the teachers will think if they find out. Chihara tells him to just go to bed already and moves closer to him while Kuroki desperately protests. Suddenly, a teacher on patrol calls out Kuroki's name from outside, causing both of them to freeze in pure panic. The teacher unzips the tent flap and asks why Kuroki is making so much noise all on his own. Kuroki hides Chihara under his blanket and holds up her bag of mackerel biscuits, nervously apologizing and promising the teacher that he will go to sleep immediately. The teacher tells him to do just that and zips the tent back up, completely fooled by Kuroki's excuse. The teacher runs away through the dark campsite, happily repeating to himself that Kuroki is finally growing up because he is eating snacks. Kuroki lets out a sigh of relief, blushing as he realizes they somehow managed to fool the teacher. Chihara agrees and says that she will head back to her own tent once Kuroki falls asleep. Chihara stares at Kuroki as he turns to look at her in silence. Kuroki lies down blushing while Chihara sits quietly beside him. Kuroki looks up in confusion and wonders why this is happening. Kuroki is exasperated to find that Chihara has already fallen asleep, and he thinks to himself that he just cannot understand her at all. They lie next to each other inside the tent as Chihara sleeps. In reality, Chihara has one eye open and is only pretending to be asleep. Kuroki falls asleep with a peaceful smile while Chihara gently touches his cheek and silently thanks him. Chihara looks back fondly and thinks about playing with him again sometime. Morning arrives as the sun rises over the quiet campsite. Kuroki sits up in his tent yawning as he wakes up. Kuroki looks around the empty tent and realizes that Chihara actually went back to her own tent during the night. Kuroki blushes and wonders if he should be mad at how carefree Chihara is instead of feeling flustered. As the other group members mention they are finished cleaning up and should board the bus, Kuroki reflects that the trip felt complete only after spending time with Chihara. Kuroki looks over at Chihara and admits to himself that the camping trip was ultimately very fun. After school, Chihara stands in the hallway holding a contact lens case. Kuroki runs into Chihara and asks if she is not going home yet, to which she replies that she has some plans with a friend. Chihara explains that her eyes have been irritated lately, and she thought of changing her contact lenses, and Kuroki understands, noting that her eyes might get dry during classes. Chihara looks closely at Kuroki and asks him what is wrong. Chihara holds up the case and asks him if he wants to try wearing one-day contact lenses himself, catching him completely off guard. Chihara retrieves the contact lenses from her bag and motions for Kuroki to come closer while he nervously complies. Chihara mentions that the lenses change eye color, but she did not think they suited her, adding that they probably will not look good on her either. Chihara asks Kuroki if he has ever tried contacts before, and Kuroki responds that he tried them once, but found putting them on to be too much of a hassle. Chihara tells him not to worry because she will put them on for him, leaving Kuroki to wonder why she is going to such lengths. Chihara gently holds Kuroki's chin and tells him to try his best and keep his eyes wide open. Kuroki feels incredibly tense as he struggles to keep his eyes open. Chihara focuses intently as she prepares to place the lens. Chihara successfully inserts the lens and says it is done, while Kuroki blushes deeply as his eyes sparkle brightly in the light from the window. Chihara suddenly bursts out laughing, leaving Kuroki completely shocked. Chihara tries to suppress her laughter as she looks at him. Chihara laughs out loud, causing Kuroki to blush deeply as he wonders why she is reacting like that and what he looks like. Down the hall, Chinatu senses Chihara laughing while Chihara collapses on her desk, giggling and gasping that she has to leave. Chihara waves goodbye and leaves while Kuroki watches her depart in total bewilderment. Kuroki stands alone, reflecting on her behavior. Kuroki realizes she left his eyes completely stranded with only one colored contact lens in, while outside other students notice Hibiya and Kazami arriving again. Kazami suggests that they should try pushing a bit harder if shoving does not work, and Hibir reluctantly agrees with his logic. Since Kuroki does not invite them himself, they decide to skip their afternoon classes just to go to the next town to buy food together. They plan on eating Taiwan Devil's chicken steak and then heading over to see Kuroki. Kazami happily wonders what will happen next, wishing he could have joined them to escape his own classes. Kazami suggests they should look for Kuroki first as they walk through the schoolyard. Kazami suddenly spots someone in the distance and asks Hibiya if that is Kuroki. Kazami quickly dismisses it, pointing out that the person has a different eye color, and Hibiya agrees. Kuroki walks home alone, thinking to himself that removing the lens is too troublesome and he should just take it out when he gets home. At home, Chihara's father asks her if she can buy some groceries after school, and Chihara agrees to do it. To remember the grocery list, Chihara writes all the ingredients directly on her arm, while her father reminds her that summer uniforms start today. Chihara puts on her cardigan to hide the grocery list written on her arm, deciding that this should do it. As Chihara heads out, her father warns her that it looks incredibly hot outside, but she sets off anyway. Outside, people complain about the record-breaking hot temperatures, while Chihara begins to sweat heavily. Determined to reach school, Chihara stumbles and sways along the street in the intense heat. Kuroki spots Chihara in the classroom and calls out her name. Chihara weakly greets Kuroki and claims it is very cold today, which makes Kuroki worry since it is clearly a very hot day. As Kuroki wonders if Chihara is going to be okay, the teacher enters the classroom to make an announcement. The teacher announces that the air conditioning is down for maintenance, and they will have to go without it for the day, sending Chihara into a state of total despair. Kuroki looks at her in concern, wondering why she is wearing such thick clothes in this heat, but assuming she must have a reason for it. As the periods pass, Chihara becomes increasingly hot, until she literally melts into a slime-like ghost by the third period, prompting Kuroki to suggest that she go to the infirmary. The teacher asks if Chihara is feeling unwell and requests Kuroki to give her a hand, which leaves Kuroki completely shocked. Kuroki reluctantly agrees and helps guide Chihara out of the classroom. In the school infirmary, Chihara lies flushed and completely exhausted, muttering that she needs to rest for now. The infirmary teacher suggests Chihara should have some water, while Kuroki fans her to help cool her down, feeling deeply sorry for her. The teacher mentions there is some tea in the office and offers to go get it, and Kuroki tells her that sounds good. Kuroki tells Chihara that even though he does not know her circumstances, she should really take off her cardigan because the heat is only making her condition worse. Chihara slowly begins to take off her cardigan, stating that she trusts Kuroki won't laugh at her. Chihara reveals her bare arms to show the grocery list, containing items like minced meat, tomatoes, and potatoes, written all over her skin, explaining that this is why she kept her cardigan on. Kuroki is left completely speechless, thinking to himself that Chihara easily wins the award for doing the most questionable thing. When Kuroki asks how she ended up doing this, Chihara explains that she wrote the grocery list on her arm as a memo, before realizing that they were switching to short-sleeved summer uniforms today. Kuroki asks if they should try to remove the ink right now, but when Chihara asks how people usually remove it, he replies that it usually just goes away naturally over time. Kuroki finds a container of sanitizing alcohol, wet tissues, and mentions that he heard alcohol can be used to remove ink. Kuroki nervously apologizes and asks if he can rub some of the alcohol on her arm to clean it, and she tells him that it is fine. As Kuroki begins rubbing her arm to erase the words, he gets completely flustered by how soft, white, and slender her skin is, and suddenly slaps his own face to snap himself out of his thoughts. Kuroki asks her to let him know if the rubbing hurts or irritates her skin, and notes that the ink has finally come off just as the infirmary teacher returns to the room carrying some cold tea. Chihara says she will write her lists on paper or her phone next time, while Kuroki thinks to himself that removing it earlier would have been better, but is surprised when she asks if he remembers. Chihara stares directly at Kuroki. Chihara takes a drink from her glass of water. Kuroki and Chihara stand together in front of the entrance of a dark, abandoned-looking tunnel. On their way back from buying Taiwanese devil chicken in the next city, Kuroki wonders if the tunnel has always been there, while Chihara notes that a monster might come out. Kuroki notes that it feels cold all of a sudden, so Chihara suggests he can close his eyes until they reach the other side of the tunnel, which surprises him. After Chihara confidently claims she has an excellent sense of direction, Kuroki decides to take her up on the offer and let her guide him. Walking with his eyes closed, Kuroki realizes that shutting his eyes only makes the dark tunnel feel much scarier and asks Chihara if she is still there, to which she confirms that she is. Kuroki nervously asks if he is walking straight, and Chihara reassures him that he is doing perfectly. When Kuroki gets startled by a spooky wind noise in the tunnel, he suddenly feels a hand gently take hold of his. Kuroki blushes and asks Chihara about her hand, and she quietly tells him to follow her direction. They continue walking through the dark tunnel with their fingers loosely held together. Kuroki stammers a quiet thank you as they continue to hold hands. Chihara abruptly announces that they are finally out of the tunnel, startling Kuroki into letting out a loud shriek. Kuroki stands there completely breathless with fright, while Chihara casually remarks that the walk took no time at all. Chihara looks back and thanks Kuroki for pulling her along while they were inside the dark tunnel. Kuroki is completely baffled and explains that he did not actually touch a single one of her fingers while they were in there, but Chihara quickly changes the subject by suggesting they eat at a nearby park. The scene shifts to the closed front door of Kuroki's house. Inside the house, Chihara directly asks if she can stay over for the night, leaving Kuroki completely shocked. Kuroki processes her sudden request in total disbelief, as he prepares to explain the events leading up to this moment. Going back to earlier, Chihara thanks Kuroki for accompanying her on her shopping trip, and Kuroki nervously asks if she was truly comfortable with him tagging along. Chihara explains that she wanted to buy a limited edition cat plushie at the mall near his house, which was her first time visiting, and is glad she did not get lost. As Kuroki notes that they have been walking for a long time, rain suddenly begins to pour down on them. They seek shelter under a roof, where Kuroki complains that the weather forecast predicted no rain and wonders if it is just a passing shower. Chihara apologizes for not bringing an umbrella, and Kuroki thinks the same to himself while looking out at the heavy rain. Kuroki mentions that his house is nearby so they can go get some umbrellas there, and adds that since his parents are not home, she can take shelter there. Kuroki suddenly realizes what he just suggested and panics. Kuroki mentally panics and tells himself that he only blurted out what was on his mind because his house is close and buying new umbrellas would be a waste, but he worries his invitation might seem improper. Fearing his invitation was inappropriate, Kuroki starts to apologize to Chihara. To his surprise, Chihara looks happy at the thought of going to his house. When Chihara asks if he is sure, Kuroki stammers a confirmation and suggests they take the underground path to get there, which surprises her. They arrive at Kuroki's house, where Chihara apologizes for the intrusion as Kuroki welcomes her inside. Chihara asks where his room is, and although Kuroki suggests they sit in the living room because his bedroom is small, Chihara immediately opens his bedroom door anyway. Kuroki tells her to sit wherever she likes, but gets extremely embarrassed when Chihara picks up his cushion to smell it. Kuroki notices her socks are wet and offers to wash and dry them for her, asking if she is okay with that. Chihara agrees to let him do it since it is him, leaving Kuroki flustered as he takes them to wash. Looking out the window, Kuroki notes that the heavy downpour does not seem like a passing shower. Kuroki tells Chihara that it looks like it will rain for a while, so she should feel free to take one of his umbrellas, which catches her by surprise. A cup is set down on the table with a quiet clink. Chihara directly asks Kuroki if she can stay over for the night. Kuroki nervously tells her that, while he does not know much about the weather, they should not immediately assume she has to stay. Chihara only responds with a silent blank stare. Chihara gets anxious, imagining that Kuroki will literally throw her out of his house if she does not leave on her own. Kuroki points out that the rain has stopped and Chihara agrees, but then she suddenly claims she stubbed her pinky toe and says she does not want to go home. As Chihara prepares to head out, Kuroki asks if she forgot anything, and Chihara asks if she can come hang out again another time, which Kuroki happily accepts. The scene transitions to the next day with the bright sun shining over the school building. The next day in class, Kuroki returns Chihara's socks to her, leaving their classmates in the background completely shocked and whispering. In a fairy tale parody, a girl named Little Red Landmine is tasked by her father to deliver a super strong highball can to her grandmother's house deep within the forest. Her father warns her to stick to the main roads and avoid talking to any strangers, and she obediently replies that she will. Little Red Landmine sets off on her journey carrying her basket. Along the way, she quickly gets distracted by a beautiful bed of flowers and decides to play around spotting a small wolf picking flowers nearby. She scoops up the crying wolf Kuroki and instantly decides to keep him as a souvenir. Shortly after, she gets into a shootout with an aggressive hunter, but easily defeats him with her own handgun before safely arriving at her grandmother's house. Continuing the parody, the two humans and the wolf enjoy their strong highball drinks, giving a toast and partying all night long at grandmother's house. The story concludes with Chihara happily hugging the wolf Kuroki as they all live happily ever after. Returning to school life, Chinatu celebrates the start of summer break and asks Chihara if she has any plans, to which Chihara replies that she has already made a list of things she wants to do. Chihara says she cannot believe Chinatu is so serious about asking, leaving Chinatu slightly surprised. Chihara reveals that her list is a specific to-do list, with Kuroki making Chinatu think that her plans are incredibly specific. When Chinatu curiously asks what plans she made, Chihara points to her notebook where she has written that she wants to hang out during the night first. Chihara explains she wants to go to festivals and watch fireworks with Kuroki, and Chinatu asks if she is going to write those down too. Chihara asks if there is anything else they could do to hang out during the night, but Chinatu says there is not. Chihara adds that she also wants to have a barbecue, go to a pool, and visit the sea, which makes Chinatu think that she just wants to hang out together, although she notes that Kuroki does not seem like the active type. Chinatu suggests that Chihara text Kuroki to ask about his summer plans, but worries that it might be a bit too fast and apologizes if she soured her mood. In response, Chihara silently slides back behind the classroom curtains, leaving her classmates calling after her in complete confusion. Back at school, Kuroki enters the classroom wishing his two friends had not stood out so much when they visited, and notices that Chihara is already at her desk. Kuroki is startled to see Chihara sitting with a stack of vacation magazines staring directly at him. Kuroki is surprised to realize Chihara reads vacation magazines and tries to imagine what it would be like for her to go on a trip. Kuroki nervously greets Chihara in the morning, but she only stares back at him in silence. Chihara breaks the silence by asking Kuroki if he prefers to travel domestically or go abroad for vacations, causing him to react with extreme surprise. Remembering their previous outing, Chihara thanks Kuroki for accompanying her on her shopping trip, and Kuroki nervously asks if she was truly comfortable with him tagging along. Chihara explains that she wanted to buy a limited edition cat plushie at the mall near his house, which was her first time visiting, and is glad she did not get lost. In the present, Chihara shows Chinatu the strange text message she received from Kuroki's phone, which says he wants to make 28 girlfriends and hit the gym, leading Chinatu to laugh and joke that he definitely wants to go to the beach with her. Chinatu suggests that someone else was probably playing a prank with Kuroki's phone, relieving Chihara, who admits she does not think Kuroki is that manly anyway. Chinatu explains that one summer break could really change a person, such as getting buffed or having a coincidental meeting that ends up in a relationship, warning Chihara that anything could happen when people do not get to see each other. Chinatu wonders what will happen to Chihara by the time summer break is over, causing Chihara to look thoughtful. Chihara's notebook shows her to-do list with Kuroki, which includes going to a festival, watching fireworks, having a barbecue, going to a pool, and visiting a park. The scene shifts back to Kuroki screaming in shock upon checking his phone, while his friends calmly note that he has finally found out about their prank. Kuroki yells at them that there are some things you simply cannot do even to a friend, but Hibiya casually asks who Chihara is anyway, leaving Kuroki completely speechless. On the third day of summer break, Kuroki lies on his bed wondering what he should do, especially since the weather is so bad outside. Kuroki looks out his window and notes that it is raining heavily and looks like a thunderstorm. Kuroki suddenly spots something outside and looks surprised. Kuroki looks out to find Chihara standing completely drenched in the pouring rain, looking up toward his window. Kuroki stares in complete shock and confusion. Kuroki rushes outside to hand her an umbrella and asks what she is doing, and Chihara simply replies that she came to hang out. Chihara explains that he had invited her to visit whenever she wanted last time, while Kuroki, recovering from his surprise, asks where her umbrella is and realizes the sudden rain caught her on the way over. Kuroki asks Chihara if she wants to come inside so she does not get wetter, and she happily agrees. Kuroki's little sister returns home calling out to her brother and wondering where he is. The little sister opens the door and is met with the sight of a completely drenched Chihara standing silently next to Kuroki, looking quite spooky with her wet hair over her face. Terribly frightened by Chihara's damp, silent appearance, Kuroki's little sister panics, assuming she is looking at a ghost. After the sister slams the door shut and hides under her blanket crying, Chihara looks toward the closed door while the sister terrifically assumes a ghost has followed her brother home. Chihara asks him what is wrong, and Kuroki nervously answers that it is just unusually quiet in the house even though his sister is home. Kuroki hands Chihara a towel and tells her to wipe herself off first so she does not catch a cold. Kuroki suddenly panics as he imagines Chihara changing her clothes inside his house, scolding himself for having such rude thoughts. Deciding her health is more important than his embarrassment, Kuroki asks Chihara if she would like to borrow his clothes until hers are dry. Chihara immediately agrees to change, surprising Kuroki with how quickly she decided, and he points her to his wardrobe. Chihara tries on Kuroki's oversized tracksuit, and when Kuroki worries that his clothes might be uncomfortable for her, she politely says it is fine. They sit quietly together on the sofa with Chihara wrapped in his baggy clothes. As Kuroki gets incredibly flustered by the suddenness of the situation, Chihara quietly calls out his name. Chihara asks if he is free during the summer break, and Kuroki confirms that he currently does not have any plans. Hearing his answer, Chihara smiles gently and repeats that she understands. Seeing Chihara's gentle smile, Kuroki gets flustered as she suddenly asks him if he has a swimsuit. Kuroki looks completely confused as she explains that she has a specific place she wants to go. Kuroki tells her that he does own a swimsuit and asks where they are going, but she cheekily replies that it is a secret. Kuroki reflects on Chihara's unique way of speaking, noting how her words seem to connect in her own head, but sound disjointed to everyone else. Despite his confusion, Kuroki blushes happily as he thinks about how she invited him out to hang out once again. Chihara asks what they should do for the rest of the day, and Kuroki suggests playing some video games, which she happily accepts. Their quiet moment is interrupted when Kuroki's little sister suddenly bursts into the room with a bag of table salt, furiously yelling at Chihara to be gone. A few days later, Kuroki sits by the edge of a bustling outdoor swimming pool, realizing that this was the secret place Chihara wanted to visit. Families and children happily splash around and play with beach balls in the pool. Kuroki looks around the crowded pool area in deep thought. Kuroki silently notes that he never expected Chihara to be the type who likes going outside in the bright sun, just as she calls his name. Chihara arrives wearing a black bikini and apologizes for keeping him waiting. Chihara asks Kuroki if she looks cute, and he flusteredly tells her to cover up her front. Chihara pulls up her wrap and warns Kuroki not to ask her about her appearance again. Chihara mentions she wore the outfit for Kuroki and wants him to praise her, while he admits he does not know much about fashion. Chihara asks Kuroki if she is saying something weird, to which he confirms she is. Kuroki tells Chihara that the outfit suits her more than anyone else he knows. Chihara smiles and tells Kuroki they should play, leaving him confused as he agrees. Chihara asks Kuroki if he knows how to swim, and he tells her that he does not. Children play with a beach ball in the shallow pool. Chihara tells Kuroki that the shallow kids' pool looks just right for him, leaving him confused about her comment. Chihara splashes water directly onto Kuroki's face. Chihara laughs loudly at Kuroki's reaction. Kuroki watches Chihara and thinks to himself that she is having fun. A young girl tells Chihara that her floaty is cute. Kuroki tells Chihara that she should lend her floaty to the girl since he will drown without it anyway. Chihara hands her floaty to the girl, who excitedly cheers. Chihara grabs hold of Kuroki's hand, causing him to react with surprise as water splashes around them. Kuroki stares at Chihara with a flustered expression as she continues to hold his hand. Chihara tells Kuroki that he must replace the floaty he told her to lend away, leaving him shocked. Kuroki wonders why she needs a floaty when she can touch the floor, while Chihara pulls him through the water, telling him to move forward. Kuroki and Chihara eat shaved ice while he asks why she loves swimming if she cannot actually swim. Chihara explains that swimming was not the main reason she came to the pool with her friend previously, and she begins to recall another reason: it was fun. Chihara tells Kuroki that the reason it was fun was because she wanted to come to the pool with him, prompting him to ask if she is saying something weird. Kuroki blushes and tells Chihara that she is indeed being weird. Chihara asks Kuroki to splash some water on her, leaving him confused by her request while he holds a cup of shaved ice. Kuroki tells Chihara that he just splashed her and now it is her turn to do the same to him. Kuroki uses a hand water cannon to splash Chihara, leaving her surprised. Kuroki thinks about how Chihara is now referring to herself as Mai and wonders if she is experiencing some kind of mental age regression. Kuroki lies in bed and thinks about how much fun he had with Chihara during their summer break while he looks at his phone. Kuroki lies in bed wondering if his time with Chihara yesterday was a date. Kuroki scolds himself for overthinking it, telling himself that it does not matter what it was as long as it was fun, just as his phone pings with a message from Chihara. Kuroki checks his phone and sees a text from Chihara thanking him for a fun day and asking to be invited out again, and he decides to keep his reply casual so he does not sound too formal. Kuroki wonders if Chihara's stomach is okay after their snack, then receives another message containing a photo of her wearing a mask, claiming she has caught a cold. Kuroki compares his experience taking care of his sister to Chihara's situation, realizing she might be acting just like his sister did when she was sick, and he heads to a store to buy supplies. Kuroki calls Chihara to check on her fever and learns she is home alone because her father is traveling, so he decides he cannot just leave her by herself. Kuroki arrives at Chihara's house and locates the back door she mentioned to him. Kuroki presses the doorbell and is surprised when Chihara immediately opens the door to greet him. Kuroki checks the thermometer and sees Chihara has a high fever of 38.3 degrees, so he suggests he should probably leave. Chihara insists they play games instead while Kuroki suggests she should rest and sleep. Kuroki hesitates and stops to think about what he should do. Kuroki asks Chihara how she usually handles colds and begins to heat up some food in her microwave. Chihara tells Kuroki that she rarely ever catches colds. Kuroki realizes with a start that Chihara is always quietly present in his life, even if she usually does not attract much attention. Chihara asks Kuroki to blow on her food to cool it down, prompting him to realize she is acting like a child. Chihara continues to ask him to blow on the food, and Kuroki wonders to himself when she last caught a cold. Kuroki blows on the udon while thinking that her request feels too much like being a husband. Kuroki holds the chopsticks out to Chihara and tells her to have some. Chihara eats the food and calls it delicious, then immediately asks for the next bite until she is finished, leaving Kuroki feeling overwhelmed. A friend asks Chihara if she is unsure about what to wear for a date, and she confirms that she is. Chihara finds an outfit and declares she has it. Chihara arrives at her friend's location and greets her. Chihara shows off her new outfit to her friend, who tells her that it suits her the best. Chihara complains that the outfit is hot because it is mostly black despite her friend's earlier compliment. The friend looks at Chihara with an expression of disbelief. The friend tells Chihara that she does not sweat, so the outfit should be fine, but Chihara insists that she does indeed sweat. Chihara tells Kuroki that her makeup usually wears off starting around her nose, leaving him confused as he asks about her makeup. Chihara stares back at Kuroki with a look of pure confusion. Chihara laughs and asks Kuroki what they were talking about again. Kuroki notes that he is happy to see a fresh side of Chihara, who is wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Kuroki thinks about how happy he is to be hanging out with Chihara during summer break as he types a text message to her. Kuroki wonders what they should do today, noting that they decided on a meeting time earlier than usual. Chihara holds up a ticket for a high-speed bus. Kuroki is stunned when Chihara tells him they are going camping, and he frantically asks if they are leaving right now. Chihara explains that they are going glamping, where the tents are set up like normal rooms with food and tools already provided, and they will be returning later that day. Kuroki looks at Chihara with a confused expression. Kuroki tells Chihara he is confused because her frilly outfit does not look very outdoorsy, and he worries he might have made a mistake in coming. Kuroki decides that if she thinks it is okay, then he is okay with it too. Kuroki and Chihara arrive at their destination, and Kuroki comments on how flashy the setup is. Chihara demonstrates how to use the hammock, prompting Kuroki to ask what it is. Chihara tells Kuroki not to copy her, while he notes that her attempt looked difficult. Kuroki asks why she chose to go camping out of nowhere, and Chihara replies that she had fun during their school trip. Chihara shows Kuroki a schedule she researched and made, noting that she wanted to go again but found it too hard for beginners. Chihara points out the meat, vegetables, and fish she prepared for them to cook, leaving Kuroki to wonder if a high schooler should really be doing all of this. Kuroki and Chihara hold sausages as they grill food. Kuroki and Chihara grill shrimp together, then eat their food while standing outside the tent. Kuroki notes that the experience was fun and delicious, and Chihara agrees. Chihara explains she changed into slippers because her heels were too noisy, and Kuroki acknowledges her choice. Chihara says she noticed how convenient the slippers are, and Kuroki is surprised she still has the ones he bought her before. Chihara tells Kuroki that the slippers are her favorite, leaving him flustered. Kuroki notices something is wrong with Chihara as they wait for the bus. Chihara confesses that she wanted to stay the night, leaving Kuroki shocked. Kuroki asks Chihara why she feels that way. Chihara points upward and says that they could have seen the stars if the weather were better. Kuroki notes that there is no teacher on patrol today, and Chihara agrees. Chihara says it would have been great to see the stars, but warns Kuroki that he needs to stop handing her bus tickets when they meet up because it scares her, and he tells her he understands. Chihara wakes up in the morning and prepares to have breakfast by looking at a box of cereal. Chihara empties the box of cereal and realizes it was the last portion. Chihara finds that her yogurt is expired, so she decides to have it anyway. Chihara suffers from stomach pain and retreats to the restroom, though she reassures herself that the expired food will probably be fine. Chihara leaves the restroom and walks back into the room. Chihara suddenly winces in pain and clutches her stomach. Chihara sits on the floor in pain, having suffered damage to her toe as well. Chihara decides she has no choice but to eat ice cream for breakfast. Chihara sits and waits for the ice cream to soften because it is as hard as a stone. Chihara wakes up earlier than usual even though she is currently on summer break. The ice cream Chihara was waiting to eat is completely gone. Chihara receives a phone call from Kuroki, who asks if she has been inviting him out a lot lately and admits he wants to see her. Kuroki lies in bed looking at his phone, realizing he has spent 5 days thinking about how to properly invite Chihara out. Kuroki stares at his phone screen, which displays a notification from Chihara about a festival happening near their school soon. Kuroki lies in bed feeling stressed as he continues to struggle with how to approach the invitation. Kuroki paces while holding his phone, feeling uncertain about how he feels toward Chihara even after all this time. Kuroki reflects on how happy he is to see Chihara and acknowledges that he has been interested in her since they first met. Kuroki feels flustered and questions whether the intense feelings he has for Chihara are truly love. Kuroki decides to search the internet for signs of being in love to better understand his own emotions. Kuroki contemplates how he would feel if Chihara were to spend time around other guys. Kuroki concludes that while he thinks Chihara is beautiful and enjoys her company, the primary emotion he feels when imagining her with others is guilt, rather than jealousy. Kuroki continues to reflect on Chihara's personality, worrying that her slow pace and reckless actions might cause others to misunderstand her. Kuroki admits to himself that he is deeply worried about her, but he suddenly pauses as a realization hits him. Kuroki faceplants onto his bed in embarrassment, questioning if he is being arrogant for thinking that he is the only person who can truly understand her. Sitting up and clutching his pillow, Kuroki wonders if wanting to be the only one who understands Chihara is his actual goal. Kuroki decides that his thoughts are becoming unnecessarily complicated and resolves to simplify his feelings. He boils his feelings down to 2 simple facts, which are that he had fun spending his summer break with Chihara and that he wants to get closer to her. With his feelings finally sorted out, Kuroki picks up his phone to make a call. Kuroki holds the phone to his ear and tells himself not to hesitate as the call begins to dial. Kuroki tries to calm his racing heart while listening to the phone ring, knowing that he cannot turn back now. Chihara answers the phone, catching Kuroki by surprise as he stammeringly greets her. Kuroki nervously thanks Chihara for taking the time to speak with him, instantly realizing that his formal tone makes him sound like he is job hunting. Kuroki anxiously asks if it is a good time to talk, and Chihara confirms that it is. Chihara says she is happy that he called, which completely flusters Kuroki as he tries to bring up his invitation to hang out. When Chihara asks if he is serious, Kuroki stammers a confirmation while realizing how incredibly nerve-wracking a voice-only call can be. While holding an ice cream bar, Chihara suggests that they meet up the following week for the festival at the shrine near their school. Kuroki remembers that the shrine is the exact spot where he drew a bad luck fortune during New Year's and panics, while Chihara quietly notes that she hopes he did not mind her asking. Stammering nervously, Kuroki tries to build up the courage to speak his mind and invite Chihara out directly. Taking a deep breath, Kuroki calls out Chihara's name over the phone to ask if she would go with him. Kuroki gathers his courage and directly asks Chihara if she would like to go on a date with him. Chihara lets out a confused sound over the line, leaving Kuroki to instantly wonder if he just made a huge mistake. Kuroki looks up at the school building under the sky, wondering if he should have said something completely different to cover up his confession. On the day of the festival, Kuroki waits at the shrine and reflects on how his sudden invitation somehow worked out, feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement about meeting Chihara. Kuroki compares his nervous excitement to finding a hidden dungeon in a video game when Chihara suddenly calls out his name from behind. Chihara arrives and thanks Kuroki for waiting, while a nervous Kuroki stammers a greeting and awkwardly comments on how hot the weather is. Chihara points out that it looks like it is going to rain and mentions she wore a hoodie because it is cold, while Kuroki desperately tries to keep his composure. Chihara looks directly at Kuroki and states that she heard today is supposed to be a date. Kuroki blushes deeply and stammers a nervous confirmation as other visitors walk past them toward the shrine. Kuroki asks Chihara if she is hungry and suggests they grab some food first, but he pauses when he notices she is quietly distracted. Chihara points out that everyone at the festival is wearing a yukata, which Kuroki quickly confirms. When Chihara mentions that she did not bring her yukata, Kuroki impulsively blurts out that he thinks she would look really good in one. Kuroki internally panics over his bold comment, but Chihara reacts positively, saying she wants to try one on and will wear one next year, which Kuroki happily agrees to. Kuroki suddenly freezes as he realizes her words imply she expects them to attend together again next year, prompting Chihara to bluntly ask if he is transferring schools, which he loudly denies. Chihara silently stares back at Kuroki with her usual blank expression. Chihara asks Kuroki what people typically do when they attend festivals, prompting him to think about his own usual routine. Kuroki explains that he usually gets a bouncy ball and a yo-yo for his younger sister, earning praise from Chihara before he asks what she normally does. Chihara reveals that she has not visited a festival since elementary school and does not remember much, leading Kuroki to wonder if she actually dislikes them. Chihara points toward a game stall and asks Kuroki if he would be willing to win a water yo-yo for her as well. Blushing, Kuroki happily agrees to her request. With their goal decided, Kuroki heads over to the festival stalls to get the yo-yo. Chihara happily bounces the water yo-yo and remarks that it is fun, making Kuroki glad to see her enjoying herself. Kuroki carries a bag of hot takoyaki from the food stalls and suggests they find a place to sit down and eat just as a single raindrop splashes onto the ground. A sudden downpour begins to rain down on the festival, catching Kuroki completely off guard. Kuroki reacts with sudden surprise as Chihara grabs his hand in the pouring rain. Chihara holds onto Kuroki's hand tightly as they stand together in the middle of the downpour. Kuroki calls out her name in confusion as Chihara looks back at him. Chihara tells Kuroki to follow her and begins to pull him along by the hand. Kuroki nervously calls her name as he allows himself to be led through the storm. Kuroki wonders where they are going as they run through the rain past the shrine structures. The rain continues to pour down heavily over the shrine grounds and trees. After taking shelter, Kuroki mentions that the scheduled 6 o'clock fireworks might be cancelled due to the weather, and Chihara agrees. They sit together in silence under the shelter with their food bag resting next to them. Kuroki blushes and praises Chihara for successfully finding a perfect spot to shield them from the rain. Chihara explains that she simply guessed they could find a quiet spot by running in the opposite direction of the crowd, leaving Kuroki amazed by her lack of hesitation. Kuroki admits that he was on the verge of panicking, and he is completely shocked when Chihara confesses that she was panicking as well. Kuroki suddenly apologizes, causing Chihara to look at him in confusion and ask what he is apologizing for. Kuroki explains that he knows it is weird, but he simply feels really bad about how the day turned out. Chihara calls his name as Kuroki admits that even though he knows the bad weather is just bad luck, he cannot stop thinking that the entire outing was a waste. Chihara drapes her black hoodie over Kuroki's shoulders and explains that, while the rain is unfortunate for the festival, she has had more fun spending time with him anyway. As Chihara drapes her hoodie over him, she tells Kuroki that she is glad the outing was fun, leaving him completely surprised. Kuroki looks at Chihara in stunned silence as she continues to speak. Chihara looks directly at Kuroki and assures him that there is no problem at all. Kuroki blushes deeply and stammers in complete shock at her kind gesture. Kuroki frantically worries that Chihara will get cold and asks if it is truly okay for him to wear her hoodie, but she casually suggests they can take turns wearing it and tells him to keep it on for now. When Kuroki asks Chihara if she is feeling cold, she thinks for a moment and replies that she actually feels lukewarm, leaving him slightly puzzled. Kuroki blushes and opens his mouth to speak, trying to find the right words to express his feelings. Wrapped in Chihara's hoodie, Kuroki confesses that even though he invited her to the festival, as long as he gets to hang out with her, they can do absolutely anything. Kuroki adds that he is really glad she came and thanks her, while Chihara looks at him with an intense gaze. Chihara responds to Kuroki's honest words with a warm and gentle smile. Chihara holds up 2 grilled skewers and cheerfully declares that their date is not over yet, to which Kuroki happily agrees. Walking home after the rain stops, Kuroki expresses his relief that the storm was only a passing shower, and Chihara agrees that the post-rain air feels nice. Kuroki promises to check the weather forecast next time and tells Chihara to be careful walking home at night, which she casually acknowledges. Before departing, Chihara steps forward and gently kisses Kuroki on the forehead at the station. Chihara looks directly at Kuroki and calmly explains that she believed today was supposed to be a date. Chihara bids Kuroki goodbye and turns to walk away, leaving him standing completely frozen in absolute shock. Kuroki remains completely speechless and wide-eyed at the station as he struggles to process what just happened. Overwhelmed by his intense shock, Kuroki collapses on his knees right on the station floor, drawing startled looks from the passing commuters. The story flashes back to a week before the festival, recalling the moment Kuroki nervously called Chihara to ask if she would go on a date with him. As soon as the call ends, Chihara stares at her phone and quietly repeats his invitation to go on a date. While eating a popsicle, Chihara deeply ponders what the actual meaning of a date is. Getting a sudden idea, Chihara decides to text her friend to ask what the difference is between hanging out with someone and going on a date. Chinatu reacts with absolute shock after reading Chihara's sudden text message. Chinatu immediately rushes over to Chihara's house, letting herself inside and greeting Chihara directly. Chinatu frantically demands to know what she means by a date, and Chihara calmly explains that the boy recently asked if she would go on a date with him. Chinatu eagerly gushes that the boy clearly has feelings for her, leaving Chihara looking slightly puzzled. Chinatu returns to Chihara's original question about the difference between a date and hanging out, asking her what she envisions when she hears the word date. Chihara lists scenarios like matching outfits, heart-shaped straws, and playing tag on a beach, prompting Chinatu to tease her for reading too much fiction. Chihara quietly adds that a date also involves being a couple. Chinatu reacts with immense excitement and surprise once again to Chihara's comment. Sitting on the floor, Chinatu notes that it makes sense for Chihara to understand that much and eagerly asks her if she is happy that he invited her out. Chihara hesitates for a moment, offering only a vague and uncertain response. Chinatu internally panics as she desperately struggles to decode the true meaning behind Chihara's ambiguous answer. Deciding to be completely straightforward, Chinatu directly asks Chihara if she likes the boy. Without hesitation, Chihara calmly answers that she likes him very much. Chinatu squeals in absolute delight and blushes intensely at her friend's honest confession. Chihara clarifies her feelings by comparing her love for him to how much she enjoys a massive concentric serving of freshly cooked gyoza straight out of the frying pan. Chinatu tells Chihara that she understands her unique way of explaining things now and begs her to stop confusing her with food analogies. Chinatu looks thoughtful and comments that, while Chihara's comparison is unusual, that might simply be her genuine way of feeling. Chinatu notes that while the exact situation is still unclear, Chihara is happy and simply wants to go somewhere fun, especially since the boy will always be by her side during those moments. Chihara goes right back to explaining different types of gyoza arrangements, prompting a tired Chinatu to tell her to stop talking about food. Chinatu holds Chihara's face to get her full attention and change the subject. Chinatu smiles warmly and reassures Chihara that she will do just fine, simply acting as she sees fit on her date. Chinatu encourages Chihara to have a date where she simply does whatever she feels like doing. Chinatu thinks to herself that giving this much advice is probably enough for the moment, while Chihara quietly nods. Chinatu happily adds that the whole situation is highly interesting to watch unfold. Chinatu offers to help recommend outfits for Chihara's date, but she gets comically dejected when Chihara replies that she is fine for now. Chihara invites Chinatu to stay for dinner since it is getting late, mentioning that her father made gyoza omelet rice, which leaves Chinatu completely bewildered. The scene transitions to the exterior of a family restaurant on the final day of summer vacation, noting that many events have taken place. At a family restaurant on the last day of summer vacation, Kuroki's friend, Kazami, dramatically cries and asks if they finally have a friend who cares about them, prompting a worried Kuroki to apologize. Kuroki explains to Kazami that he ended up going out quite a bit during the summer break for various reasons and had a lot on his mind. Kazami cheerfully guesses if Kuroki went on a family trip or visited his hometown, but Kuroki quietly denies it. Their friend Hibiya joins the table and bluntly asks Kuroki if he ended up getting a crush on someone over the summer. To change the subject, Kuroki nervously asks Hibiya about his strange outfit, and while Hibiya explains he went to the pool earlier, Kazami playfully points out that Kuroki's sudden subject change is highly suspicious. Kazami leans in close and curiously asks if Kuroki met a cute girl over the break, catching Kuroki completely off guard. Kazami dramatically weeps and confiscates Kuroki's plate of French fries, claiming Kuroki previously said spending summer break with his friends was the absolute best, which Kuroki denies ever saying. Kazami looks at him with a serious expression and asks for the real reason they could not hang out over the vacation, prompting a flustered Kuroki to try to stall the conversation. Kuroki stammers and hesitates, trying to find a proper way to explain his situation to his friends. Hibiya notes that Chihara is a kind person, even if she will not shrink down to his small size, while Kazami sits quietly with the plate of fries still resting on his head. Kuroki sincerely apologizes to both of them, explaining that he never intended to neglect them and still deeply values them as important friends who patiently put up with him. Kazami smiles warmly and asks when they are going to hang out next, suggesting tomorrow, but Kuroki points out that they have school starting tomorrow. Kazami offers to give Kuroki relationship advice since he claims they have been best friends for 17 consecutive years, though Hibiya points out that they only met when they were 3, which Kazami counters by claiming it includes their past lives. Kuroki admits that getting romantic advice from his friends is highly embarrassing, while Kazami tells him not to worry, and Hibiya continues to tease Kazami about the brevity of their past lives. Despite his friends claiming they are a reliable source of advice, a hesitant Kuroki admits that he does not know what he wants to do, though he confesses that he does like Chihara. Kuroki gets caught in a spiral of overthinking, expressing that asking Chihara out feels like trying to monopolize her, which makes him feel apologetic and worried that he might seem gross or a nuisance from her perspective. Stuck in his self-deprecating thoughts, Kuroki suddenly announces that he wants to become a flower instead, prompting a flat question of why from his friends. Kazami tells Kuroki that he is relieved to see him unchanged even after finding someone he likes, while Hibiya encourages him to summon his confidence and just go for it, moving Kuroki. Hibiya boldly declares that if Kuroki's worries are endless, he will step in and get Chihara for him, but a deadpan Kuroki immediately warns him definitely not to do that. Kazami gently suggests that since Kuroki is inexperienced, it is perfectly fine for him to just move forward at his own pace, earning a sincere thank you from Kuroki. Kazami offers Kuroki a choice between dumb advice and serious advice, but Kuroki politely declines both, saying he will just appreciate the sentiment, while Hibiya clenches his fist and asks if he should deal with Kazami first. Walking to school the next day, Kuroki feels exhausted from a lack of sleep, because both Kazami and Hibiya kept calling him late at night to give more relationship advice. 2 classmates casually greet Kuroki as they pass by, while Kuroki walks on, thinking that he cannot see himself as the type of guy who could suddenly become charismatic through cheap tricks. Kuroki suddenly panics as he remembers Kazami's late-night advice about making eye contact and projecting a positive attitude when greeting others. Kuroki slumps in dismay as he realizes he failed his friend's advice by giving a lazy greeting and completely failing to look his classmates in the face just now. Kuroki reflects on his past behavior, wondering if he has always acted in this manner when looking back. The school PA system announces that all students must write down their class suggestions for the upcoming school festival and submit them by the next homeroom period. Kuroki ponders what the class should do for the festival, deciding that any simple idea would be fine as long as it is not too difficult to pull off. Labeling himself as someone with no initiative, Kuroki buries his face in his hands in defeat, while Kazami playfully cheers him on as a natural leader. A classmate approaches Kuroki to thank him for letting him borrow an eraser during their previous class period. The classmate explains that the borrowed eraser was brand new and offers Kuroki some chewing gum as a thoughtful gesture of thanks. Kuroki is deeply impressed by how casually and thoughtfully his classmate offered the gum, thanking him as the student walks away. Kuroki gets discouraged, thinking to himself that he has never done anything so thoughtful for anyone else, and feels he lacks a likable side. As Kuroki walks dejectedly down the hallway, Chihara sneaks up from his blind spot and startles him by calling his name. Kuroki gasps in surprise, and Chihara asks him if he has figured out what to write down yet, which leaves him temporarily confused. When Chihara specifies that she means their class suggestions for the school festival, Kuroki realizes the assignment completely slipped his mind. Chihara reveals that she thought of a festival activity the entire class could enjoy, but is hesitant to write it down. Chihara explains her hesitation comes from the fact that her suggestion involves everyone in the class. Kuroki asks if she is worried about suggesting an activity for everyone based solely on her own desires, and Chihara nods in agreement. Kuroki realizes they the same worry, reflecting on how he also would not have the confidence to propose a personal desire to the entire class. Kuroki encourages Chihara to write down her suggestion anyway, pointing out that it could be a great opportunity for the rest of the class to get to know her better. Kuroki adds that the final decision will be made by listening to everyone's opinions, so no one will get upset at her for suggesting something, especially since everyone is curious about her. Chihara directly asks Kuroki if he is curious about her too, catching him completely off guard and leaving him flustered. Chihara leans in and stares intently at Kuroki while he blushes nervously and struggles to find an answer. Before Kuroki can respond, another classmate calls out to him, prompting Chihara to step back slightly as Kuroki turns to address the interruption. The scene transitions to the outside of the school building as the conversation continues. Chihara is asked about her suggestion for the school festival and explains her idea of running a gyoza food truck with variations like fortune gyozas or gyoza skewers, which gets a comment about it containing a lot of meat. The story progresses as the class successfully passes the proposal submission phase and officially decides to run a pan-fried gyoza stand for the festival, leaving several classmates highly excited. Carrying a cardboard box down the hallway, Kuroki looks surprised as he processes the decision to run a pan-fried gyoza stand. Kuroki helps carry heavy supplies as he recalls how Chihara's suggestion successfully made it to the blackboard during homeroom. During the homeroom meeting, Chihara is recalled passionately explaining her gyoza food ideas to her classmates, completely engrossed in sharing her thoughts. Kuroki recalls how Chihara's passionate gyoza speech got the entire class salivating and excited about the food. Kuroki reflects that Chihara took advantage of the classroom's chaotic momentum to motivate students who usually do not participate, lighting up the room's atmosphere. Kuroki grins while carrying supplies, admitting to himself that he was also swept up in the classroom's sudden excitement. He remembers how Chinatu and another classmate assertively approached Chihara to break the ice, complimenting her cute Chinese-style dress. After the initial ice was broken, the rest of the classmates gathered around Chihara, allowing things to proceed smoothly from there. Ultimately, it was decided that Chihara would take on the central role of running the stand as its leader on the festival day, though Kuroki suspects she is also being used as a poster girl. Chihara lets out a thoughtful hum as she continues to contemplate her new responsibilities. Having changed back into her usual cardigan, Chihara is told by a classmate that leading the stand alone is too much work, though Chihara quietly insists she will be fine. The classmate places her hands on Kuroki's shoulders and suggests that Chihara needs a right-hand assistant, catching Kuroki completely by surprise. When the classmate asks Kuroki to be the vice leader, Chihara stands behind him and thanks her friend for the suggestion. Chihara wraps her arms around Kuroki's back and begs him to accept, prompting a flustered Kuroki to nervously agree while wondering why she is hugging him. The classmate explains that the rest of the class will handle tasks like interior design and setup, asking if the two of them will take the central roles on the festival day. Chihara asks if she is allowed to make the decision herself, and the classmate quickly agrees since Chihara's leadership makes everything easier for everyone. Chihara confidently tells them to leave the responsibility to her leaving Kuroki, to note how incredibly psyched up she is. Kuroki pauses and thinks to himself as another realization begins to cross his mind. Kuroki watches Chihara interact with her classmates, thinking that it is surprising but wonderful to see her displaying such leadership, and he believes she is genuinely having fun. Kuroki thinks to himself that if Chihara is happy, then he is happy too when Chihara suddenly calls out his name. Chihara looks intensely at Kuroki and suggests that they go training, leaving him somewhat surprised. Kuroki stares in absolute confusion, wondering what on earth she means by training. In a volume extra segment, Kuroki prepares for another day of school when Chihara suddenly calls out his name, catching him by surprise. Chihara stands outside and a surprised Kuroki asks her what she is doing there and what has gotten into her. Chihara deadpans that she lives there, completely shocking Kuroki. When Kuroki frantically asks what she is talking about, Chihara smiles warmly and tells him to stop being so formal and just call her Mai, reminding him they have been friends since they were kids. Kuroki looks completely dumbfounded, thinking to himself that she is entirely incorrect and desperately wondering what is going on. In the classroom, Kuroki continues to wonder if he is being pranked when another version of Chihara, wearing glasses, approaches him, making him realize she has completely changed her vibe. The glasses-wearing Chihara tells Kuroki she noticed he has been arriving late recently and doubts he cares for her lectures, prompting a flustered Kuroki to blame late trains in confusion. While the glasses-wearing Chihara claims today is an off day, another smiling version of Chihara appears and tells her she hopes she is not bothering Kuroki, while Kuroki looks on in utter disbelief. The glasses-wearing Chihara tells her counterpart to stay out of it, addressing her as Chihara-senpai, leaving a deeply shocked Kuroki to realize there are literally two of them standing right in front of him. The smiling Chihara leans close to Kuroki and playfully asks if he wants a private chemistry lesson, sending him into a complete panic. Kuroki wonders in pure panic what on earth is going on. Chinatu suddenly sits up and wakes up in her bed. Chinatu realizes that everything she just witnessed was actually a dream. She happily emphasizes to herself that it was her own personal dream. During the preparations for the school festival, Chinatu pauses and looks deeply thoughtful. Chinatu admits that she is completely shocked to see Chihara acting so proactively for the school festival. Chinatu grumbles to herself that Chihara went ahead and dressed up in those costumes without even asking her for advice. Feeling offended that her best friend excluded her from the styling fun, Chinatu resolves to get involved and show Chihara what she can do. Holding up a creepy zombie mask, Chinatu complains about being in a different class from Chihara, especially since her own class is preparing to host a haunted house. Sighing in relief, Chinatu notes that she managed to quickly finish her of the haunted housework. Chinatu realizes that because the school festival lasts for 2 days, she will have plenty of time to plan out multiple outfit changes and coordinate Chihara's entire production. Chinatu enthusiastically resolves to make Chihara the star of the school festival, guaranteeing that everyone will be completely captivated by her. Chinatu gets a sudden flash of inspiration to dress Chihara up as a waitress, imagining how fantastic Chihara would look in either a realistic or fantasy waitress costume. Remembering that the class food stand concept is Chinese food, Chinatu gets excited about dressing Chihara in a Chinese dress and doing her hair. Chinatu has another sudden realization that since everyday clothes are out of the question this time, she can completely bypass normal fashion boundaries. Chinatu realizes this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to throw out all normality and dress Chihara up however she pleases. Chinatu proudly declares that there is absolutely no stopping her now. Chinatu imagines Chihara dressed up as a Chinese hopping vampire, deciding that this concept would also be totally valid. Chinatu contemplates if a gothic-style cosplay would also work to help Chihara gain popularity, though she realizes she is starting to lose sight of the original goal. Chinatu blushes and mutters about how much potential Chihara has, confidently asserting that she can pull this off, despite her thoughts being entirely delusional. Chinatu runs down the school hallway clutching her plan, feeling entirely confident in her ideas as long as Chihara is on board with them. When Chinatu looks for Chihara, she is surprised to hear from a classmate that Chihara is actually busy training today. Walking next to Chihara, Kuroki is completely baffled, wondering what she meant by training and if she meant something like waterfall ascetic training. Kuroki hilariously overthinks the situation, deciding that Chihara must view gyozas as sacred and is encouraging him to purge his heart and body of worldly desires to face the food with utmost sincerity of spirit. Chihara stops outside a Chinese restaurant and explains to Kuroki that it is run by a gentleman she knows. Kuroki's bizarre spiritual assumptions are instantly shattered as he realizes that the training is actually going to be hands-on induction training at the restaurant. Wearing an apron, Kuroki politely says that he is in their care, but Chihara playfully teases him by stating that he looks like a cute middle schooler on a work experience trip. Chihara introduces the store owner who will be helping them, and Kuroki nervously says that it is his pleasure to meet him. The owner encourages Kuroki to do his best, prompting a nervous Kuroki to worry if a beginner like him will be okay wrapping gyozas, but Chihara reassures him to relax and focus on learning. Chihara calmly declares that she will personally eat every single gyoza he wraps today, leaving Kuroki incredibly flustered and surprised. Chihara tells Kuroki that he can ask as many questions as he wants before the restaurant opens, and Kuroki wonders if there is a specific trick to wrapping them correctly. The owner praises Chihara as a total pro, explaining to Kuroki that wrapping gyozas is actually highly physically intensive work. The owner instructs Kuroki that after learning the basics, he just needs to practice a lot to build up his speed, while Kuroki watches the technique carefully. Chihara proudly mentions that she learned directly from the owner, and Kuroki gets motivated to give his absolute best effort as Chihara tells him to do his best. As they sit at a table, Chihara silently munches on a gyoza while Kuroki looks over at her in quiet anticipation. Chihara explains that she wants to use authentic Chinese ingredients like Chinese chives for the school festival gyozas, but admits they are easily damaged and require a lot of preparation time. Chihara explains her plan to spend their free time preparing and freezing a large batch of gyozas before the festival so they can serve them easily on the day, and Kuroki is impressed by how much thought she has put into it. Chihara begins to bring up a concern, catching Kuroki's attention as he looks up. Chihara explains that since this is for the school festival, she wants to offer the diners and their classmates a little something extra. Chihara says she wants to include a little twist to make the diners happier, which prompts Kuroki to decide that this is the perfect time to show some initiative. Kuroki hesitates, slightly speaking up as Chihara looks at him. Kuroki nervously apologizes for potentially overstepping his boundaries, but offers to an idea he has regarding her concern. Kuroki suggests serving Chihara's gyozas from morning until noon, and then borrowing a fryer in the afternoon to serve the deep-fried gyoza skewers she mentioned previously. Kuroki explains that people would be able to enjoy her gyozas as a hearty snack between meals as well. Kuroki blushes and stammers that his idea is just a possibility. Suddenly, Chihara grabs his arm, tightly catching him completely by surprise. Kuroki stammers Chihara's name in shock as she looks at him with an intensely determined and serious expression. Breaking into a brilliant smile, Chihara enthusiastically declares that they will do exactly that. Kuroki blushes intensely, reflecting on how happy Chihara's reaction has made him feel recently. The view shifts to a tray of freshly wrapped gyozas, while Kuroki notes that things have been quite fun lately. Chihara looks at Kuroki with a gentle, knowing smile and asks if he agrees that it has been fun. At the restaurant kitchen, Chihara corrects Kuroki by pointing out that his selected ingredient does not belong in the gyoza mix, and Kuroki apologizes. The scene transitions to the bustling school courtyard just before the festival, with students busy setting up decorations and organizing stalls. Kuroki lies in bed, wearing a face mask, blushing deeply, and lamenting how embarrassing it is to have caught a cold right before the festival. Kuroki checks his thermometer and sees his temperature has dropped to 37.2 degrees, hoping he can recover by tomorrow since he feels guilty about leaving his prep work to others. Suddenly, Kuroki's train of thought is interrupted when the doorbell rings. Walking toward the entrance, Kuroki assumes that his younger sister must have forgotten her keys. Kuroki opens the door and is left completely frozen in absolute shock to find Chihara waiting on the other side. After Chihara quietly greets him, a panicked Kuroki immediately slams the door shut, forcing Chihara to speak to him through the intercom. Speaking through the intercom, Kuroki explains that while he is happy she came, it would be bad if he ended up passing his cold to her. Ignoring his warnings, Chihara steps inside anyway and states that she only wants him to rest, and that today's visit will not be a long one, leaving him puzzled by her wording. Chihara places her hands on Kuroki's shoulders and asks about his fever, prompting him to nervously insist that his temperature has mostly come down and he should be fine. Chihara leans in close to check if Kuroki's fever has truly gone down, which makes him blush furiously and frantically swear that he is completely fine now. Chihara pulls out a plastic bag and announces that she brought him a get-well gift, knowing that he probably does not have much of an appetite with his cold. She reveals some experimental pan-fried gyozas as her remedy, leaving Kuroki completely bewildered by the sudden turn of events. Chihara holds up a gyoza for Kuroki to eat, claiming the healing power of the meat juices will cure him, while Kuroki asks her how the school festival preparations are going. Kuroki notes that it would be a real letdown if he missed the festival, but Chihara points out she has never been to that specific section of the school festival either. Suddenly, the front door opens and Kuroki's younger sister calls out that she has returned home, catching both of them by surprise. The younger sister walks in and instantly panics, shouting in terror that the ghost sister is back, while Chihara looks at her in confusion. Chihara quickly holds out a container of gyozas toward the startled younger sister to calm her down. The younger sister's fear vanishes as she eats a gyoza, renaming Chihara as the gyoza big sister instead, which leaves a confused Kuroki to wonder what is happening. Chihara pulls the younger sister into a tight hug, and the little sister happily clings to her. The younger sister looks completely blissed out while being hugged by Chihara. The younger sister happily corrects herself, calling Chihara a warm big sister instead. Chihara picks up her school bag and prepares to head home now that her visit is finished. As Chihara departs, Kuroki waves goodbye and notes that the school festival is finally just around the corner. On the day of the school festival, Kuroki arrives on campus wondering how their class stand turned out when a classmate spots him and quickly calls him over. The classmate announces Kuroki's arrival as Kuroki stares in complete surprise at a massive gyoza food truck decorated with Chihara's name. Looking at the massive crowd of people gathered around their stand, Kuroki notes in amazement that the food truck is already a huge success. Kuroki watches Chihara, who is dressed up in her Chinese dress, serve the customers, and notes that the scene looks more like a fan meet and greet than a school stall. As Kuroki prepares the food, Chihara walks over to him and mentions that the customers are buying their gyozas faster than they can cook them. Chihara approaches Kuroki to thank him for coming and praises him for cooking exactly the way she taught him, prompting a blushing Kuroki to admit that he practiced a bit at home. Chihara stands next to him and mentions that while serving customers is fun, she wants to help with the actual cooking work as well. Chihara explains that she is allowed to take a break from customer service later, and proposes that they cook gyozas together during her break, which Kuroki happily agrees to before they are both distracted by a sudden noise in the crowd. Kuroki wonders if there is some kind of problem brewing nearby, and Chihara immediately says she will go take a look. Kuroki looks out to find two intimidating muscular delinquents from another school walking through the festival crowd, making him worry about the situation. The delinquents aggressively yell that they are starving and in a bad mood, demanding gyozas immediately, while Chihara politely thanks them for standing in line anyway, as Kuroki panics over what might happen. Kuroki watches in complete terror as an angry-looking Chihara holds up a giant gyoza, leaving him to frantically worry if this is about to turn into a full-scale physical fight. Chihara calmly talks to the hungry delinquents, telling them she understands their hunger, and asking them to wait just a little longer while they prepare delicious gyozas for them. Chihara expresses her strong desire for everyone to try and enjoy their gyozas, and she happily agrees when a classmate suggests they take some photos together later. Chihara returns to the food stand and apologizes to Kuroki for keeping him waiting while Kuroki asks her if everything is fine. Chihara calmly notes that she also gets cranky when she is hungry, prompting Kuroki to remark on how surprisingly honest she is about it. While the delinquents happily enjoy their food in the background, Chihara suddenly asks Kuroki if Class C is currently hosting a curry stand. Blushing deeply, Kuroki gathers his courage and asks Chihara if she would like to go get some curry together during their upcoming break. Chihara silently stares back at Kuroki, having already completely assumed they would explore the school festival together without any need to ask. Chihara tells Kuroki that he can be somewhat insensitive sometimes, and bids him to follow her, leaving a highly confused Kuroki to loudly question why she called him that. As they walk through the busy festival, Chihara asks if he has ever heard of gyoza curry, making a shocked Kuroki realize she plans to bring their own class gyozas directly to the curry stand. At the entrance of the class haunted house, Chihara notices Kuroki's anxiety and tells him to grab onto her clothes if he gets too scared as they step inside. After leaving the haunted house, Chihara compares the experience to having a strange dream, and Kuroki quietly agrees. Walking through the hallways, Kuroki notices several student couples acting very close and wonders if the romantic atmosphere is due to the school festival. Kuroki wonders where all these couples have been hiding and momentarily worries if he and Chihara look like a couple to others. But he quickly dismisses the thought, telling himself he is clearly just her tour guide. While Kuroki comforts himself with the thought that being her guide is better than acting embarrassingly lovey-dovey, Chihara points to a fortune-telling house stall and asks what it is, mentioning she has never had her fortune told. Chihara notices a heart-shaped sign indicating they offer relationship compatibility readings. Kuroki reflects on his own thoughts while Chihara recalls Chinatu's playful delusion about their relationship as best friends being auspicious. Chihara opens the door to the classroom booth and suggests they go inside, catching a panicked Kuroki completely off guard. Inside the dimly lit booth, the student fortune teller holds up a tarot card and hums thoughtfully. The fortune teller suddenly reacts with dramatic shock as she looks at the card, leaving both Kuroki and Chihara wide-eyed with anticipation. When Chihara asks what the card represents, the fortune teller admits she wants to know as well, while Kuroki looks at the three face-down cards in confusion. Kuroki nervously wonders if the card indicates reciprocated feelings, while a shocked Chihara asks if it means a one-sided love. The fortune teller prepares to deliver the final verdict, telling them that their compatibility is about to be revealed. Chihara breaks into a triumphant fanged grin as the fortune teller declares their compatibility is off the charts, leaving Kuroki completely speechless. Chihara shyly hides her face in her sleeve while Kuroki stares at her in complete excitement and bewilderment. The fortune teller happily explains that while both of them have pretty strong quirks, it simply means they are an excellent fit for each other, leaving Kuroki to wonder if they really are that compatible. Kuroki's face turns completely red in embarrassment as the fortune teller's words echo in his mind, recalling how Chihara happily let him carry her earlier in the day. The fortune teller blushes as she concludes her reading, stating that they are clearly crazy about each other, which leaves them flustered. Back outside on their break, Kuroki holds up a deep-fried gyoza on a skewer and prepares to eat it. Kuroki happily tells Chihara that her gyozas are delicious, and he could eat them forever, making her smile as she admits she is glad she had the courage to propose the gyoza stand idea for the school festival. Sitting beside Chihara, Kuroki admits that this is the first time he has truly felt involved in a school event, and it is all thanks to her. Kuroki smiles warmly and thanks Chihara, directly catching her slightly by surprise. Just as Kuroki reflects on the courage he managed to muster, for the first time a loud scream erupts across the schoolyard. Chihara asks what is happening, and they look out to see a massive crowd gathered around a loud public confession taking place on the school roof. Watching the bold public confession from a distance, Kuroki reacts with quiet amazement. Chihara quietly murmurs that the scene is just like spending the school festival with the person you like, prompting Kuroki to look over at her. Kuroki jokingly wonders if he should run over there to feel the downward wind from the crowd, so their good luck rubs off on him, causing Chihara to look at him in confusion and ask why. Kuroki realizes it is about time to head back to their food stand, but Chihara suddenly grabs his shirt sleeve to stop him. Kuroki turns back and asks Chihara what is wrong. Looking directly into his eyes, Chihara softly asks him not to go yet. Chihara tells him she wants to stay there together like this for just a little bit longer, leaving Kuroki completely stunned. Kuroki stands frozen in complete awe, his mind instantly blasting off into space as her words sink in. Back at the gyoza food stand, Kuroki stands completely frozen and spaced out, prompting a classmate to ask if anyone knows why he is behaving like that. Chihara stands in front of her bathroom mirror looking intently at her hair. Chihara touches her bangs, recalling a small memory of Chinatu always being the one to cut them for her. Chihara holds up a pair of scissors and prepares to cut her own hair. Kuroki arrives at school relieved that he is not late, but he notes that Chihara has not arrived yet, which is very unusual for her. Chihara suddenly enters the classroom wearing a baseball cap pulled down low, catching Kuroki's attention as he wonders why she is wearing a hat inside. Kuroki casually greets her as she adjusts her cap. Chihara quietly returns his morning greeting, looking slightly distant. Kuroki stares after her in surprise. Known for being slow to notice changes, Kuroki realizes that Chihara seems to be acting unusually cold toward him today. Kuroki wonders if something happened to put her in a bad mood when a sudden, shocking realization hits him. Kuroki is caught in a spiral of low self-esteem, wondering to himself if Chihara simply has days when she has absolutely no interest in seeing him. When a classmate asks Chihara if she recently changed her look, Kuroki is caught completely by surprise and tries to get a closer look. Kuroki wonders if Chihara truly made some sort of change to her appearance. Kuroki watches Chihara in the classroom, nervously trying to find the courage to approach her. Feeling extremely nervous and unable to ignore his curiosity, Kuroki tries to focus on Chihara, but the classroom bell suddenly rings. Unable to hold back any longer, Kuroki nervously calls out to Chihara as she begins to walk away. Once she turns around, a deeply blushing Kuroki stammers and struggles to find the words to start his sentence. Chihara turns and stares intently directly into Kuroki's face, waiting for him to speak. Chihara pouts slightly as she continues to look at him in silence. Chihara suddenly reaches out and lifts Kuroki's chin, cutting him off mid-sentence. Pulling him very close, Chihara remarks that he only seems to make eye contact with her during moments like this, leaving him flustered. Chihara lifts her baseball cap, revealing her newly trimmed bangs to him. Kuroki looks at her face in absolute shock as he finally realizes the change she made to her hair. Kuroki covers his mouth, blushing intensely as Chihara softly apologizes while he frantically processes how close their faces were and how her trimmed bangs look. Following that day, Chihara starts trying out new hairstyles to let her cut bangs grow out, such as wearing her hair in a top knot, which Kuroki observes as their daily routine changes for a while. Kuroki arrives late to school because he was keeping his little sister company at the hospital, and he is greeted by Chihara, who points out his lateness. Kuroki tells Chihara that there is something he wants to ask her, and she curiously asks what it is. Kuroki asks Chihara if she would let him borrow her class notes, and Chihara easily agrees. Chihara immediately adds a condition stating that she will only lend him the notes if he can beat her. Kuroki looks at Chihara in surprise, wondering what kind of competition she has in mind. Kuroki immediately backs down, stating that he does not want to try to beat her. Chihara asks Kuroki if he felt relieved by avoiding a conflict, which he quickly denies. Kuroki gets determined and asks Chihara if they should battle it out, after all, catching her by surprise. Kuroki stands ready for their challenge while Chihara crosses her arms and looks at him. Kuroki announces his challenge, prompting Chihara to playfully trash-talk him as they prepare to settle things fairly. They immediately settle their battle by throwing their hands down for a game of rock, paper, scissors. Kuroki starts the second phase of the game by pointing his finger and telling Chihara to look that way, catching her by surprise as she turns her head. Looking back in confusion, Chihara asks if looking backward even counts in their game, which Kuroki confirms, prompting her to complain that he should have clarified that first and demanding they restart the game from the beginning. They play rock, paper, scissors again, and Chihara happily declares that she won once more. Chihara commands Kuroki to look that way as she prepares to point her finger. Chihara suddenly leans in extremely close, staring intently into Kuroki's face. Deeply flustered by her proximity, Kuroki desperately yells at her to point in any direction already. Chihara blinks in surprise as Kuroki quietly calls her name. Blushing deeply, Kuroki warns Chihara that if she tries to break the rules or trick him again, he will refuse to play the game with her. Chihara looks completely shocked by his sudden, serious warning. Chihara quietly promises that she will not do it again, and Kuroki thanks her before suggesting they start over. They play again, and Chihara points her finger while commanding him to look that way, causing Kuroki to immediately lose in a completely normal way and cry out in frustration. Realizing he has lost, Kuroki sighs and decides he will just have to ask their teacher about the class material, but Chihara suddenly turns and asks him if he even takes notes during class anyway. Chihara turns away from him and slides the classroom window open. Chihara looks out the window and tells Kuroki to observe how the color of the trees has already changed, noting that it is already autumn. The scene flashes back to Chinatu, and Chihara chatting with Chinatu, looking highly amused and excited. The flashback continues, recalling Kuroki's two friends Kazami and Hibiya looking on. The scene shifts to the school's PA broadcasting booth, with Kuroki looking completely overwhelmed and bewildered. In the present, Chihara stands in the hallway and looks over her shoulder as Chinatu approaches them. Chinatu runs up, cheerfully calling Chihara's name and inviting her to hang out, which Kuroki notices. Kuroki stammers a greeting, but Chihara directly tells Chinatu that she was actually planning to walk home together with Kuroki today. To Kuroki's surprise, Chinatu enthusiastically suggests that Kuroki should just join them and hang out together. While Kuroki internally panics over how overly familiar Chinatu is acting, Chinatu suggests that he can even invite some of his own friends along if he feels too awkward about hanging out with them. Kuroki quickly clarifies that he does not feel uncomfortable about it, but Chihara looks at him thoughtfully as he hesitates. Kuroki thinks to himself that since Chinatu brought it up, he actually was already planning to call his friends soon anyway. Kuroki agrees and says he will try calling his friends, much to Chinatsu's delight. The scene returns to the school's PA broadcasting room, where a highly nervous Kuroki sits in front of the audio equipment. Kazami stares at the newcomers in the room and asks who they are, confused because he thought he was meeting with Kuroki. Chinatu introduces the girl next to her as Chihara, mentioning that she has heard Kuroki's friends have intense personalities. Kazami comments that he does not quite get the guy, while Chinatu introduces herself as a friend of Mai and remarks that even a friend of a friend should be treated like family. Chinatu excuses herself for a moment while Kazami watches on, and the two girls sit together on the sofa. Chinatu leans toward Kazami and asks what his relationship is with the guy sitting over there, noting that she heard they went to middle school together. Mai looks at Chinatu with a strained, wide-eyed expression, leading Kazami to wonder what is wrong with her face. Kazami observes that something is wrong with him as well, noting that the boy has not made a single movement or spoken for a long time. Kazami and Chinatu discuss how to proceed, agreeing that they cannot deal with both of them at the same time and decide to go in order. Kazami asks Mai if she is making a sulking face, while she confirms that she is and acknowledges that he left her for last. Kazami mentions that he has never hung out with a girl on a personal level before while the others watch him. Mai asks if he is afraid of girls, to which he replies that he is not, but he wants to make a favorable first impression. Chinatu asks Mai and Kuroki to go get some drinks, and Kuroki agrees without any problem. Mai tells Kuroki that they ran out of melon soda on this floor and instructs him to head to the first floor to get some. The three of them sit together in the booth, with Kazami sitting with his arms crossed, while the others remain nearby. Chinatu smiles broadly with her hands on her cheeks and tells the two boys that there is something she would like to ask them. Mai remarks that the elevator is here, while Kuroki observes that there is still melon soda left on this floor. Kuroki asks if Mai is okay and questions if she feels uncomfortable hanging out with large groups. Mai tells Kuroki that she is fine and he does not have to push himself. Kuroki says he is fine but hesitates to continue his thought. Mai looks at Kuroki and asks him not to leave her alone. Kuroki gives Mai her drink, noting that it is plum kombucha, while she thanks him. Chinatu asks if Kuroki likes someone. Kazami remarks that it seems there is someone he likes, while his friend insists he will not sell him out. Kuroki wonders if that is why he asked both of them to go look for drinks, while a hand pinches his cheek. Chinatu says she is not telling him, and Kuroki asks about her friend with the black hair. Chinatu says she does not want to talk gossip here and apologizes, mentioning she is talking about her friend's feelings. Kazami insists that he is asking precisely because those feelings belong to his friend. Kazami looks at Chinatu with a questioning expression, and when she realizes what he implies, she asks if he can actually tell. Kazami remarks that the others should be back any time now. Kuroki and Mai return carrying a tray of drinks for everyone. Chinatu cheers and welcomes them back, while one of the boys remarks that the others are really going at it. Kuroki expresses his confusion about which song to choose for karaoke, noting that he is not a good singer and feels it would be awkward to choose an upbeat song, while Mai suggests that they should both have a go. Mai begins looking through the karaoke menu, announcing she is going to sing a favorite song of hers and hopes Kuroki likes it. Kuroki and his friend hold glow sticks, casually remarking that any color should work for the performance. Kuroki reacts in shock when he realizes Mai is about to sing her favorite songs. Mai holds the microphone tightly as she prepares to start her performance. Mai sings enthusiastically, performing a song about her love for gyozas and her desire for freshly made food. The four of them stand in a row with varied reactions ranging from smiling to looking solemn or impressed as they listen to the performance. The karaoke screen displays a total score of 45 after Mai finishes her song. Chinatu greets Kuroki in the hallway and asks why he has a long face while he thinks about needing to review class content for the upcoming exams. Chinatu asks if he plans to get together with Chihara to study, and he confirms that he is worried about the exam season coming up. Chinatu asks why he will not study with her, but he firmly replies that he will not. Chinatu wonders if he prefers to study alone while he looks confused and hesitant. Chinatu leans in close and tells him that he will understand why if he tries inviting her. Kuroki watches as Chinatu walks away, telling him to hang in there and see him later. Kuroki wonders what that interaction was about as Chihara asks if he is going home, to which he confirms that he is. Chihara asks if he wants to hang out, mentioning she was thinking of studying the parts she feels uneasy about. Chihara suggests they study together to help each other with their weak subjects, and Kuroki agrees. Kuroki expresses his surprise that she actually agreed, while Chihara simply says okay. They agree to get going as the classroom windows look out over the school grounds. Walking through town, Kuroki wonders where they should study, noting they would not be able to stay in a shop for too long. Chihara suggests a nearby coffee shop, but Kuroki asks if that place will really be okay. Chihara suggests a nearby park where dogs are regularly taken for a walk, asking Kuroki if study group sessions need dogs in them. Chihara asks if he means he wants to come to her house, noting that they would be lacking something more important, which is desks. Chihara grabs Kuroki's sleeve and pulls him along, mentioning that they just changed their TV for a bigger one, while a shocked Kuroki asks if they are not going to play games there. Kuroki asks if she wants to avoid studying at all costs, and Chihara looks at him while they walk together. Chihara tells him that is not true at all, while Kuroki insists that yes, it is. Chihara explains that she does not want to leave him behind to move on to the next grade, clarifying that she did not mean the second year is the most fun. Chihara pats Kuroki on the head, saying she gets it, while thinking that she feels like she was just throwing a tantrum. Chihara tells him that she has never had a study group session before. Chihara stares at Kuroki and tells him she thinks it might be fun to have her first one if it is with him. Chihara giggles, telling him she will do her best, while Kuroki blushes deeply and tries to find his words. They arrive at a house, and Chihara invites him in for their study group session, apologizing for intruding. After a quick scene transition, they find themselves standing in front of a claw machine at a game plaza. Kuroki yawns and mentions to himself that he is so sleepy today. Kuroki is startled when he discovers several miniature versions of Chihara on his bed, with one lying face down and another looking up at him. Kuroki watches the tiny Chiharas crawl around a plate with a fried egg and a slice of buttered toast, noting how small they are and how many there are. Kuroki wonders if he has finally lost his mind and started hallucinating, while one of the tiny figures sits and eats a small piece of food, reminding him of a small animal. Kuroki picks one of the tiny Chiharas up in the palm of his hand, noting how fragile she feels and wondering if she wants to get on top of his hand. Kuroki reacts with a panicked expression as he holds the tiny figure, struggling to process what is happening. Kuroki thinks about how fragile and cute the tiny figure feels, noting that she fits perfectly in the palm of his hand like a hamster. Kuroki sweats nervously, thinking about how terrifying it is to hold a living being that looks exactly like a human in his hands for fear of hurting her by accident. Kuroki realizes he has to get to school, while the tiny Chiharas suggest they play and decide to go along with him. Kuroki carefully places the tiny figures inside his school bag, noting that he had to hide them secretly. Walking to school, Kuroki worries about the many dangers outside and how they might affect his tiny companions. Kuroki peeks into his school bag while in the classroom, wondering if the tiny Chiharas are doing okay in there. Kuroki recoils in terror when he opens the bag and sees a multitude of glowing eyes staring back at him from the darkness inside. Kuroki cries out in shock, realizing that they have multiplied. Kuroki holds one of the tiny Chihara figures up while he looks down at his own hair, feeling something moving. Kuroki is startled, feeling several tiny Chihara figures crawling over his head and shoulders, while the main Chihara watches him with a neutral expression. Kuroki stands before a blackboard in the classroom, noting that Chihara seems a bit strange today. Chihara looks at Kuroki with an intense, steady gaze, appearing full of determination. Kuroki asks Chihara what is going on with her today, noting that she seems different. Chihara asks Kuroki if he will come with her now. Kuroki exclaims that of course he will go with her. Kuroki follows Chihara through a residential area, expressing his concern about not knowing where they are going. Kuroki remarks on the size of the house as they stand outside a large property. Chihara tells Kuroki to look, explaining that it is one of her aunt's houses and that she comes here to play from time to time. A large, fluffy white dog sits in the middle of the yard, staring directly at them. Kuroki comments on the large dog and Chihara replies that she has a clear goal, which Kuroki identifies as playing with him. Kuroki is surprised when Chihara declares that one day she will wash that dog. Kuroki asks if she cannot do it right now, and Chihara explains that they are currently still in the process of getting along with each other. Chihara describes the dog as a difficult and stubborn boy, wondering if he is simply wary of his surroundings. Kuroki calls out to Chihara while standing next to the dog. Chihara tells Kuroki that she brought some toys and insists they use them to play with the dog, despite Kuroki's disbelief that this is real. Chihara tries various toys, including a chew toy, a frisbee, and a rubber ball, but the dog just growls at her. Kuroki observes that there might be a compatibility issue between them as Chihara sits on the ground looking dejected. Chihara looks over her shoulder at Kuroki. Kuroki speaks to Chihara while she stands by the dog. Kuroki wonders in shock if she is actually asking him to give her his paw. Chihara extends her hand toward the dog and the dog places his paw in it. The dog continues to hold Chihara's hand with his paw. Chihara keeps hold of the dog's paw while looking at Kuroki. Kuroki begins to tell Chihara his impression of the situation. Kuroki watches as Chihara holds the dog's paw and asks if the dog does not like her quite a bit. Chihara simply says thanks in response. Chihara tells Kuroki that she has walked the dog many times already and notes that he seems fine with him. Chihara explains that the dog sometimes refuses to go for a walk and shows what he looks like when he rejects her while Kuroki listens. Chihara suggests they go back after doing one lap around the park since it is getting dark soon. Chihara agrees to the plan. Chihara plays catch with the dog in the park while Kuroki watches. Chihara pets the dog while it sits on a slide. Kuroki speaks to Chihara as the sky grows dark above them. Kuroki asks if it was really fine for him to come along on the walk, and Chihara questions why it would not be. Chihara says she thought she might be interrupting and that Kuroki would say something like that. Kuroki asks why she always hangs out with him, and Chihara tells him to tell her that himself. Kuroki is stunned and exclaims that he never thought he would be asked such a question. Kuroki thinks to himself that he never imagined she would be interested in knowing that. Chihara stands still while looking at Kuroki while the dog sits on the ground nearby. Chihara strikes a pose with her arms outstretched. Chihara suddenly exclaims that she is about to be taken for a walk, leaving Kuroki shocked. Kuroki reaches his hand out toward Chihara in a panic. Kuroki takes hold of Chihara's hand. The dog looks on as Kuroki and Chihara hold hands. Kuroki stammers as he tries to speak while they stand on a bench in the park. Chihara asks Kuroki to keep hold of her hand. Chihara tells him that she will not let go and asks him to do the same. Kuroki agrees while Chihara looks at him as they walk through the park. Chihara remarks that taking a big dog for a walk is quite a hurdle, noting that she usually returns home without even breaking a sweat. Chihara suggests they hang out again some other time, and a blushing Kuroki says he will be looking forward to it. Kuroki confirms their plans, and Chihara agrees, bidding him farewell as she heads inside her house with the dog. In a sudden magical girl scenario, a villain named Chinatu demands that magical girl Chihara surrender and become her dress-up doll, while Chihara and her small mascot companion realize their normal tactics will not work against the evil executive. The mascot instructs Chihara to lift him up so he can absorb everyone's pain into his wand, but Chihara holds him away and tells him to stop sniffing her. Chihara fiercely charges up her magical attack. Chihara holds up a pan-fried gyoza as her power continues to charge, drawing energy from mundane worldly desires like holidays, bicycles, and gacha pulls. Chihara blasts the villain with a massive negativity power laser, causing a huge explosion while the mascot watches in awe. The mascot praises Chihara for saving the city and notes the lingering smell of garlic in the air, while Chihara simply states that she is hungry. Chihara, wearing a giant gyoza costume, tells a confused Kuroki to try a bite of her since she is freshly baked. Later at a train ticket gate, Kuroki talks on his phone, agreeing to pick up his younger sister and take her home because the caller cannot drive today. Walking through the station, Kuroki thinks about how he is not used to taking this particular train line and wonders if the express train stops there. Chihara walks alongside Kuroki at the train station and hums questioningly. Kuroki cries out in surprise as he notices Chihara beside him, and she casually asks if he meant to come to her house, causing him to nervously explain that bumping into each other is just a coincidence. Kuroki frantically swears he was not following her, leading Chihara to calmly ask if that would have been wrong, which makes Kuroki suggest they just skip that part of the conversation. Kuroki explains that he is on his way to his grandmother's house to pick up his little sister, and when he asks which way Chihara is heading, she replies that she is likely going the same way. Riding inside the train together, Kuroki notes that they are indeed heading the same way. Chihara stands quietly by the train doors as they travel. Kuroki observes to himself that the frequency of them spending time together after school has recently increased. Kuroki admits to Chihara that he feels a little nervous because he always gets the impression he is entering her turf whenever they go home together. Chihara raises her hand and gently gestures for Kuroki to come stand right in front of her. A sudden influx of commuting passengers boards the train, quickly crowding the carriage. Squeezed right up against Chihara by the dense crowd, a heavily blushing Kuroki internally panics over how incredibly close they are standing. Chihara casually explains that the train always gets crowded here because many people transfer at this station, then asks how many stops he has left, to which he nervously replies that he probably has 3. As Chihara promises to let him know when they reach their stop, Kuroki feels grateful for how the day turned out but frantically wonders where he is supposed to look. He notices a sweet, slightly pungent scent coming from her that gives off a grown-up vibe, leaving him to wonder if she is wearing perfume since the smell is so close. Looking up, Kuroki realizes that Chihara is actually quite tall. He feels completely overwhelmed by the situation, their close proximity, and the angle he is viewing her from. Kuroki's imagination runs wild as he envisions a highly idealized, handsome version of Chihara announcing their arrival. Blushing furiously, he notes that a bunch of unknown emotions are suddenly surging up from deep inside him. Chihara asks Kuroki if he is all right, while a completely flushed Kuroki feels incredibly dizzy and feels as though he is lacking oxygen. As they step out onto the station platform, a confused Kuroki asks Chihara why she got off the train as well, leaving her to stare at him in silence. Chihara abruptly commands Kuroki to just keep walking, prompting him to nervously agree and follow her instructions. They arrive at the house to find Kuroki's younger sister sitting alone on the porch looking sad. Kuroki announces he is there to pick her up and wonders what happened, while Chihara notes that the young girl seems a little down. The younger sister confesses that she lied to her friends. As Kuroki asks her what happened, the girl looks up and recognizes Chihara as the gyoza big sister. The younger sister explains that when her friends asked what her older brother looks like, she lied and told them he looks like Dwayne Johnson. Chihara stares silently while Kuroki scolds his sister for going out of her way to tell a lie that could make unrelated people unhappy. The younger sister admits she feels sorry about telling the lie. Kuroki accepts her apology but asks her what she plans to do to fix the situation. Chihara suggests that if the friends simply assume that is how she views her brother, then it would not technically be a lie. The younger sister points out that using that excuse would make it seem like she loves her brother a huge amount, leaving an overwhelmed Kuroki to remark that just listening to their conversation makes him feel out of breath. Chihara crouches down and looks at the younger sister, who asks what she likes about her brother since they seem to get along so well. Chihara hums thoughtfully before addressing the little girl directly. Chihara stares with an intense expression while Kuroki stands frozen in the background. Kuroki reacts with absolute shock. Sweating nervously, Kuroki tells his little sister that she just went ahead and asked a question he could never ask on his own, prompting the girl to glare back at him. Kuroki quickly spirals into self-doubt, frantically wondering if there is even anything to like about him in the first place, though he tries to reason that they probably would not hang out this much unless he had at least something going in his favor. Staring at the back of Chihara's head, Kuroki realizes he cannot move, feeling incredibly torn between wanting to hear her honest answer and wanting to run away at the exact same time. Chihara calmly answers the little sister, stating that there are plenty of good things about him. Kuroki stares in quiet surprise as he processes her immediate answer. Kuroki becomes completely overwhelmed as he wonders what exactly she likes about him and if there truly are plenty of things, before finally deciding that it is fine as long as they are good things. The little sister relaxes, slightly agreeing that she guesses he does have plenty of good traits, and admitting that she feels the same way about him, which leaves Kuroki feeling deeply relieved. Chihara suddenly pulls the younger sister into a tight embrace, prompting a flustered Kuroki to announce that he is going inside to call their grandma. Chihara continues to hold the little sister in a close hug on the porch. Surprised by the sudden affection, the younger sister looks up and calls out to Chihara. Blushing slightly, Chihara rests her chin on the girl's head and softly asks what is wrong. Kuroki walks back outside and calls out to the two of them, inviting them to have lunch together, but he suddenly stops in his tracks. Kuroki pauses and observes that the two of them get along very well as Chihara holds the resting girl in a warm hug. The next morning at school, Kuroki greets Chihara, who tiredly remarks that it is definitely not a good idea to sleep with cosmetic contact lenses on. Standing outside the school building while others run in their tracksuits, Kuroki realizes he forgot he had physical education today and left his clothes at home, feeling thankful that the teachers did not get too angry about his mistake. Kuroki notes to himself that this kind of situation shows exactly why it is important to develop and keep good daily routine habits, just as he suddenly spots Chihara sitting nearby. Kuroki recalls that the girls were also supposed to be at the sports grounds today and asks Chihara if she is sitting out of class as well because she is feeling unwell. Chihara suddenly pulls out a handgun and points it directly at Kuroki's face, catching him completely off guard. Kuroki stares back at the weapon in sheer disbelief. Raising his hands in surrender, Kuroki nervously stammers that he just accidentally forgot one little thing. Kuroki pleads for his life, desperately explaining that he usually checks what he is bringing to school before going to bed. Unmoved, Chihara coldly tells him that his excuse will not fly, prompting a terrified Kuroki to agree. Chihara asks Kuroki if he has any last words while he remains completely speechless. Kuroki stands nervously in silence, his cheeks slightly flushed as he stares back at her. Blushing deeply, Kuroki admits his final regret, telling Chihara that he would have liked to go to the zoo with her. Chihara pulls the trigger, blasting Kuroki straight in the face with a stream of water. Sitting together on the steps, a dripping wet Kuroki begs her not to shoot him for real and asks about the gun. Chihara explains that it is just a prop from the school festival warehouse, adding that he is the one to blame for getting shot anyway. Chihara admits she secretly snuck the water gun out because she did not have any weapons on her, prompting Kuroki to question if she really should have done that. Chihara stands up and tells Kuroki to wait there for a second as she walks away. Chihara returns a moment later holding a badminton racket in her hand. Chihara hands the racket to Kuroki and tells him to prepare himself, leaving him to confusedly ask why she brought him something with so many see-through gaps to defend himself against a water gun. Kuroki tries to ask for a second to prepare, but Chihara immediately fires the water gun again, blasting him right through the racket strings. Kuroki notes that the water went straight through the racket, and Chihara apologizes before leaning in to help wipe his wet face. Noting that the racket is in the way, Chihara smoothly tosses it aside before leaning in extremely close to his face, causing Kuroki to let out a panicked yelp. As they sit back on the steps watching their classmates play soccer, Kuroki asks Chihara if she usually attends physical education classes, and she confirms that she does not. When Kuroki asks for her reason, Chihara tells him to come closer and lend her his ear so she can reveal her secret, leaving him deeply flustered. Kuroki nervously agrees as Chihara leans in until her lips are right next to his ear. Instead of explaining herself, Chihara playfully pinches Kuroki's earlobe and compliments him on having pretty ears, while a gym teacher stands in the background watching them. Kuroki stands completely frozen, his face burning bright red from her sudden action. The gym teacher suddenly laughs, telling Kuroki that he is taking supplementary physical education classes and playfully calling him a dummy for his distraction. On her way home from the supermarket, Chihara spots a little girl crying on the ground next to a dropped ball. Chihara wonders what she should do to help the crying child, feeling that she cannot just leave her alone. Chihara thinks about trying to smile to comfort the girl, but recalls how her attempts at smiling usually just end up looking incredibly intimidating. Admitting she has lost trust in her own facial muscles, Chihara uses her fingers to manually stretch her mouth into a smile and asks the little girl what is wrong. The child stops crying and stares blankly at her, making Chihara realize her forced smile might have been a bad idea. Pivoting her approach, Chihara continues to pull at her cheeks to make an exaggerated funny face, slurring her words as she asks again what happened. Chihara notices a scrape on the child's knee and asks if she fell down, which the little girl confirms. Chihara crouches down and asks for the girl's name. The child introduces herself as Yu-chan. Chihara then asks where her mother or friends are, and Yu-chan points out that her friend is at the nearby park. Yu-chan explains that she was playing with her friend, but tripped while retrieving their ball, expressing fear that he will make fun of her if he finds out she cried over a simple fall. Chihara acknowledges the little girl's sadness and mentions that hearing the story made her feel frustrated too. When Chihara asks if there is anything she can do to help, a voice suddenly calls out from off-screen. A young boy rushes over and loudly demands to know who Chihara is, startling Yu-chan. Chihara calmly notes that the boy must be Mai-chan. Chihara introduces herself as Mai-chan, prompting an angry Mai-chan to repeat her name and accuse her of making Yu-chan cry. Standing protectively in front of his friend, Mai-chan orders Chihara to let Yu-chan go and threatens to use his personal alarms on her, leaving Chihara mildly impressed by his bravery. Playing along as a villain, Chihara falsely claims she is an accomplished veteran who goes around making grade schoolers cry. In response, Mai-chan declares that he will report her to the school. Chihara compliments Mai-chan for being a formidable opponent, completely confusing the boy. Turning his attention back to his friend, Mai-chan praises Yu-chan for being amazing and notes that she used to be a huge crybaby in the past. Yu-chan looks down and quietly corrects him, stating that is not what actually happened. Yu-chan confesses the truth, explaining that she started crying because she fell down while getting the ball and admits she hid it because she was afraid he would make fun of her. Holding the ball, Yu-chan explains that she felt intimidated because she knows Mai-chan would never cry if he were the one who fell down. Chihara watches the exchange and softly calls out Yu-chan's name. Mai-chan calls her lame but immediately trips and falls backward onto the ground right in front of Chihara. Later, Kuroki and Chihara sit together on a park bench as Kuroki remarks on her story. He asks if she has ever cried and Chihara confirms that she has. Recalling her childhood, Chihara explains that she was playing in the forest when she was a little girl. Chihara holds up her hand to show a tiny scar and explains that she got caught on a branch and cut her fingertip. Natsu enthusiastically greets Mai and declares that she is going to play with her hair. Chihara calmly acknowledges Chinatu while Kuroki greets Iwakura as she playfully calls him by his nickname Kuroking. A confused Kuroki assumes Chinatu wants to play with his hair, noting that his hair is too short for that, and suggesting she find someone else. Chinatu presents a new mineral oil spray she bought, explaining that it makes hair nice and shiny, and adds that she wants to use it so she and Mai can smell the same. Feeling out of place, Kuroki nervously asks if it is really okay for him to be there, but a voice reassures him that it is completely fine. Chinatu leans over Chihara's shoulder and asks Kuroki if he is at least slightly curious, prompting Chihara to groan at her phrasing. Chinatu directly asks Kuroki what kind of hairstyle he likes, catching him off guard before he admits that he liked when Chihara had her hair tied up in 2 ponytails the other day. Kuroki continues his thought, explaining that he felt the twin ponytails suited Chihara quite a lot, while Chinatu smiles widely at his answer. Chinatu teases Kuroki by pointing out that she was asking about hairstyles in general, and he did not have to specifically choose one of Mai's styles, causing an embarrassed Kuroki to groan. Chinatu happily notes that she also digs that hairstyle, suggesting it is because she and Mai similar tastes, which Kuroki confirms in surprise. Chinatu explains that they often go shopping together and clothes, though Chihara dryly points out that Chinatu does most of the borrowing, leading Kuroki to simply acknowledge their dynamic. Kuroki theorizes that Chinatu might be the one responsible for Chihara's highly stylized appearance, but he pauses his train of thought. Chinatu reveals that their tastes in perfume are actually completely different because Chihara only prefers sexy scents, leaving Kuroki completely shocked by the description. Kuroki questions if Chihara's perfumes are truly sexy, while Chinatu smiles smugly and Chihara simply stares. While Kuroki internally marvels at the fact that the word sexy is even in Chihara's vocabulary, Chinatu encourages him to check it out for himself. Chinatu grabs Chihara's wrist and holds it out, confidently betting that Kuroki will agree with her assessment as he nervously recoils. Kuroki internally panics over whether it is appropriate to smell her wrist, or if asking for permission would be even creepier, ultimately deciding to just go along with it, as Chinatu tells him to take a whiff. Kuroki leans in and nervously sniffs Chihara's wrist. Kuroki visualizes the scent as belonging to a muscular macho man in a leather jacket and sunglasses, revealing that his impressions of the smell are completely off the mark. Kuroki awkwardly describes the scent as a grown-up, mature smell, prompting Chinatu to praise his honesty before asking him to smell her next. Chinatu elaborates that the scent reminds her of a well-groomed lady leaving a depilation clinic in an elevator on her way to a card shop, causing a confused Chihara to ask if that is actually a compliment. While waiting for Kuroki by a fence, Kazami randomly challenges Hibiya to a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets to be Kuroki's closest friend, leaving Hibiya confused. Kazami stares straight ahead in complete silence. Kazami notes that Kuroki should be the one to decide who his closest friend is, which Hibiya points out is just a true and reasonable statement, despite Kazami trying to make a clever retort. Chinatu spots the boys and asks what they are up to. When Hibiya explains they are waiting for Kuroki, Chinatu informs them that he already went somewhere with Mai, causing Kazami to panic and yell that Kuroki will get eaten. Chinatu mentions that she knows where Kuroki and Mai are heading and offers to let the boys follow her since she is free right now. Chinatu proudly admits that she really just wants to walk around with two tall, handsome men. Hibiya tells her not to say that so proudly, while Kazami happily thanks her for the compliment. As they walk through a residential neighborhood, Chinatu asks the two boys why they are so attached to Kuroki. Hibiya explains that he likes Kuroki because he is always his usual self, leading Chinatu to note that they must be childhood friends. Kazami agrees, adding that for him, his attachment goes all the way back to his rebellious phase in middle school. A flashback shows Kazami sitting in class during his rebellious phase, sporting an extreme spiky punk hairstyle as an eraser falls through the air. The dropped eraser slides rapidly across the classroom floor until it bounces off a desk leg. Kazami looks back at the fallen eraser and realizes it slid too far away for him to easily pick it up. Kuroki walks over to Kazami's desk and reaches down to pick up the fallen eraser. Kuroki hands the eraser back, commenting on how far it slid, but mistakenly calls Kazami by Hibiya's name. Back in the present, an emotional Kazami passionately declares that Kuroki reached out even though his rebellious look made him hard to approach, while Hibiya casually mentions that something similar happened to him. A flashback shows a handsome, sparkling Hibiya walking down a middle school hallway, drawing the attention of the surrounding female students. During his middle school days, Kazami is walking down the hallway when someone calls out his name, prompting him to look back and smile. Kuroki approaches Kazami in the school corridor and Kazami asks him what is going on. Kuroki points out to Kazami that his cardigan is actually inside out. Back in the present, Chinatu asks Kazami if he really thought badly of the people who were just trying to be considerate of him. Kazami reflects on how everyone else chose to ignore his inside-out clothing to spare his feelings, while Kuroki was the only one who broke that illusion. Chinatu notes that Kuroki was probably just being his usual kind self, but that small gesture was the moment Kazami and Hibiya decided they wanted to remain friends with him for life. Kazami agrees that those memories are incredibly precious to them because they believed the experience was unique to just the two of them, but their conversation is suddenly interrupted. Nearby, Kuroki approaches Chihara to return a dropped eraser and casually points out that she is currently wearing her cardigan inside out, which Chihara quietly acknowledges. Realizing that Kuroki does this exact same thing for everyone, a defeated Kazami and Hibiya collapse, flat on the ground in shock, prompting Chinatu to yell over to Kuroki that two idiots have just fallen down. The story transitions to the group arriving at the Chihara family's hometown, though the narration notes that this sudden development actually began 1 week prior. 1 week ago, Kuroki and Chihara are standing together when Hibiya, Kazami, and Chinatu suddenly show up, prompting a confused Kuroki to ask what they are doing there with Chihara. Kazami proudly claims that they are simply full of surprises, while Chinatu teases him for his high self-opinion. Chihara silently turns and begins walking away, leaving Kuroki to wonder where she is heading. Kuroki thinks Chihara is gesturing for them to follow her, comparing her sudden departure to encountering a clever wolf in a forest, while Chinatu enthusiastically rallies the boys to go after her. They arrive outside a building with a sign that reads Coffee Shop Jenke. Kazami asks if this is where Chihara was heading and wonders if she and Kuroki were going to have a coffee date after school, which Chinatu playfully confirms, while a highly flustered Kuroki loudly denies the accusation. Kuroki quickly explains that they are actually at Chihara's house, which is also the coffee shop, and that she offered to make him some coffee as a thank you for lending her some manga. A cigarette burns in a nearby ashtray as an unfamiliar deep voice remarks on how large their group is. A tall, intimidating man in sunglasses with a cigarette asks how many of them there are, causing the boys to immediately mistake him for a Yakuza member, until Chihara calmly calls him her father, prompting her father to ask which one of them is Kuroki. The father asks if Kuroki is the one, which Chinatu happily confirms, leaving a terrified Kuroki to instantly apologize just for having his name. To Kuroki's immense relief, the father relaxes and explains that Chihara has told him about him, thanking Kuroki for always hanging out with his daughter. A tearful Kuroki covers his face in profound relief that he is safe and alive, while Chinatu quietly observes his dramatic reaction. Chihara's father mentions that it is always better to have more male helpers around, which leaves Hibiya and Kazami confused, until Chinatu pops up and proudly announces that she has caught the two of them for him. Hibiya admits he feels like they are being dragged into something they do not fully understand, while Chihara's father praises Chinatu for bringing them along. Chinatu winks and holds up a flyer, reassuring the boys that she will properly explain the situation to them. The flyer reveals an upcoming Gyoza festival to be held next weekend in Chihara's family's hometown, noting that Coffee Shop Jenke will be running a food stand there. While Kazami and Hibiya ask what this festival has to do with them, Chinatu pleads with them to all work the gig together, before turning to Kuroki to confirm that he is coming along too. Blushing deeply, Kuroki agrees to do his best if they are fine with having him catching his friends completely by surprise. Kuroki remains quiet while Hibiya suggests that the three of them should participate in the event together, noting that it sounds fun even though he points out that Kazami attends a different school. Chihara tells them that of course they will be joining, and adding that a person should know when to help a friend in need by rolling up their sleeves or taking off their shirt. Chihara shouts that she will be stripping too, while her father stands behind her and tells his daughter that her commentary was stupid. Mai sits in a hotel bath at night and sighs that she is tired now that the preparations for the festival are finished. Mai wonders if she was too forceful when getting everyone involved, though she thinks Mai was likely fine with hanging out as a large group and hopes she is having a good time. Chinatu asks if Mai is enjoying herself and confirms that it looks like she is. Mai remarks that it felt good to take a bath in such a large bathhouse. Mai and Chinatu sit on a bed and agree that they should go to bed early since tomorrow is the big day. Mai asks if Chinatu is there. Chinatu tells Mai that it is just the two of them in the room. A hallway in the hotel remains empty as a voice wonders what this means. Chinatu happily greets the boys at the door, explaining that they have come to the boys' room to hang out since it is a rare opportunity, while Mai stands quietly beside her. Kuroki nervously tells them not to come in and urges them to go to sleep, but Chinatu ignores him and insists that she has brought cards. Chinatu explains that she asked Mai's dad for permission to let her join them, while a shocked Kuroki asks if she intends to send Mai back home all alone. Kuroki and Hibiya are visibly confused and ask where the others are, while a flashback reveals that Kazami proposed a game of rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go buy ice cream and ended up losing on his own. Chinatu tells them to just have the loser buy ice cream for everyone, noting that Kuroki felt sorry for him and tagged along. Kazami refuses to go, telling Chinatu to go herself because he does not want to. Chinatu teases Kazami for being stingy and wonders if his personality is all just for show. Chinatu tells Iwakura that he inadvertently got himself turned down after crossing the line of what it means to be selfish. A pillow hits Kazami directly in the face. Chinatu apologizes to Iwakura and says it was just a joke while slamming a door. Kazami apologizes to Kuroki for making him come along, explaining that he went overboard because he wanted them to have one more chance to go somewhere together since they attend different schools. Kazami admits that he is an introvert who did not think he would be able to make good high school memories, and Kuroki shyly agrees that he feels the same way. Kuroki reflects on the joy of getting together with friends, noting that he is happy to be hanging out with the boys Iwakura and Chihara. Kazami smiles and agrees with the sentiment. Kuroki checks his phone to see a message from Kazami asking him to bring the pillow back while standing outside the hotel with a friend. A happy Mai stands in front of a busy food stall at the Gyoza festival, remarking that business is a big hit. Kuroki and Chihara greet the shopping group as they return, and one of them notes that sending out information on social media in advance was worth it. Kuroki mentions that the lunchtime sales peak is almost over and hands a bottle of tea to someone. An announcement is made that all the most delicious gyoza will be gathered in one place for a gyoza eating contest, and they invite anyone interested to gather on the stage. A girl looks directly ahead. Kuroki shouts that he does not want to participate. Kuroki tells the others to look at Chihara, while his friends tell him to just accept his fate since he cannot be seen eagerly participating in such a rowdy event. Chihara crouches down on the ground, and a bystander notes that she is warming up. The group stares in shock as Kuroki realizes what is happening. Kuroki looks visibly buff as he stands near the boxes. Kuroki explains that he has not competed yet, clarifying that he has not won or lost even once. Chihara expresses her desire to seize victory for her sake, while her father and Chinatu stand behind her cheering on the group. The host welcomes everyone to the gyoza eating contest as the stage is prepared with tables. Akemi Kobayashi introduces herself as the influencer who will be hosting the event today. Akemi explains that this is a team competition where the team that eats the most gyoza wins, and she reveals that there are lavish prizes for the victors. Two competitors mock their opponents for only having small, soft gyoza while the group watches them from the sidelines. Kuroki panics because they are already losing the trash-talking battle against their opponents, who are using witty gyoza-related insults. The first dish of gyoza arrives, and the group realizes they have already had their first dropouts. Hibiya struggles after eating too much at the hotel breakfast buffet, and Kuroki tells him not to push himself. Kuroki and Chihara are the only two left, and she tells him to focus on eating the food together. Chihara holds up a gyoza with chopsticks and tells Kuroki to focus on eating it with her. Kuroki blushes and stammers in response to her. Chihara tells him to enjoy the moment, noting that coming this far with him feels like a dream come true. The opposing team experiences another dropout, and Kuroki looks on in surprise. Akemi announces the Jenke coffee shop team as the winners and presents them with free food and drink passes for the festival. Chihara holds a plate of gyoza and prepares to feed Kuroki. Hibiya and Kazami eat ice cream while someone tells the eating contest dropouts not to eat ice cream now. Chinatu sits at her restaurant wondering why Mai is not present for their celebratory dinner after Kuroki dropped out due to eating too many gyoza. Chinatu notes that the two tend to get lonely when the other is not around, while Hibiya and Kazami remark that it would have been fine if the two of them had gone to keep him company. Hibiya smiles and jokes that it is rude to the two of them to suggest he is the only one who is lonely. Kazami asks what happened to Chihara's dad, and someone explains that he stayed behind at the festival for the end-of-event staff party. Kuroki asks if they can order 3 more servings of roasted garlic, and someone shouts no. Kuroki tells Chihara he is okay now and apologizes for worrying her while rejecting her offer to call a cab because he wants to walk. Chihara asks if Kuroki minds if they take a little detour. They walk along a path by a river. Chihara explains that her dad's parents' house and an elementary school are located close to this area, and Kuroki replies in surprise. Chihara mentions a place she used to play at when she was little, while Kuroki reflects that this is indeed her hometown. A playground at night remains visible with some installations missing, but Chihara notes that her favorite one is still there. Kuroki asks if the slide she is pointing to is her favorite, and he notes to himself that she is being very communicative today. Chihara points out the tunnel that is connected to the slide. Chihara crawls into the dark, narrow tunnel, explaining that she used to come there to eat and nap because such spaces calm her down, while Kuroki jokingly asks if she is a hamster. Kuroki asks if it won't be pitch black inside, and Chihara disappears into the tunnel while calling him to follow. Chihara looks back and tells Kuroki that he can come inside too. Kuroki hesitates, worrying that it will be too cramped with both of them inside. Kuroki stands outside in the dark, silent and blushing. Kuroki crawls into the tunnel after Chihara, who urges him to come in. Kuroki and Chihara sit together inside the cramped tunnel, both blushing. Chihara leans against Kuroki and says that it feels relaxing despite her earlier warning that it would be cramped. Kuroki is startled and calls out her name. Chihara smiles and tells Kuroki that she bets he does not want to get out now. Kuroki silently agrees in the dark as they remain in the tunnel under the night sky. Kuroki asks if she is a clairvoyant, while a young girl shouts at them for being late and suspiciously asking if they were secretively touring the area. The girl complains that they are going home tomorrow, meaning the rest of Mai's time will belong to her. The girl excitedly suggests they play cards and asks if they brought them, leaving the boys surprised. Chihara stares at Kuroki in class and asks what is with him today. Chihara tells Kuroki that he is staring straight at her. Chihara notes that it is embarrassing. Kuroki tells her to stop saying weird things on purpose because they are supposed to be drawing each other's portraits in class. Kuroki yells at her not to say random things after Chihara tells him he has quite a small face. Chihara tells Kuroki that she knows how to draw and asks if she should become his personal painter in the future, although she notes that she would first have to become the type of adult who can afford to hire one. Kuroki comments that sketching a portrait is quite difficult, and Chihara replies that he is easy to draw. Chihara smiles and tells Kuroki that she knows his face well because she has been constantly looking at him since they became classmates, and comments that he has deep, chiseled features, causing Kuroki to blush and deny it. Chihara tells Kuroki she can draw him from memory since she is quite familiar with his face, leaving him stunned. Chihara announces that she is all done. Chihara shows Kuroki the portrait, identifying it as him from the first period class, and suggests closing the window in case a bee comes in. Kuroki thanks her and says it looks cool, though he privately wonders if he really looks like he is up to no good sometimes. Kuroki decides he needs to do his best to draw Chihara, noting that he cannot draw her in a weird way. Chihara asks if Kuroki doesn't think his moles are a sexy feature, leaving him struggling to maintain his focus. Kuroki sighs, feeling that he did his best with the portrait. Kuroki decides he will stay after school to redraw it, but Chihara insists on taking a look at it now. Chihara looks at the drawing in silence. Kuroki panics, wondering if she is disappointed, as Chihara asks if that is really how he sees her. Chihara says she will keep the drawing while Kuroki looks on in surprise. Kuroki begs Chihara to give it back. Chihara tells him she does not want to while holding the drawing. Mai looks at her nails and comments that they are overgrown and discolored, while her friend invites her to come along to get her nails done. Mai agrees to join her friend. A nail technician named Narumi introduces herself to Mai and asks what she would like to drink. Mai looks over the drink menu as Narumi lists the options, including black tea, water, and lemonade. Narumi tells Mai she can take her time choosing and suggests they begin by removing her current nail extensions. Mai explains that her friend does her nails sometimes, and when asked if she gets them done regularly, she says she does them herself too, even though she is not very good at it. Narumi acknowledges her response. Narumi notes that many people get nervous at salons and asks if this is Mai's first time getting them done professionally. Narumi explains that salons can apply glitter and stones to make nails shine like treasures. Mai remarks that it is a shame to take off gel nail extensions as they grow out, while Narumi happily agrees to make them beautiful today. Narumi asks Mai if she has decided on a design yet. Mai stares intently in a certain direction, and Narumi wonders what she is looking at. Narumi blushes and excitedly points out the sample design she made. Narumi suggests a color gradation using autumn colors since Mai is a high school student, while Mai wonders if she likes the idea or if she is just staring because it is unusual. Narumi asks if Mai is interested in the design she is pointing to, and Mai stares at it in silence. Mai states that she likes the design and her friend reacts with excitement. Her friend wonders if Mai is just saying that innocently, but she remains anxious about the implications. Mai tells Narumi that she wants that design. Her friend panics, asking about her budget for the day and if she has any coupons. Mai explains that the design is a sample she made and that she practices doing it on her own natural nails from time to time. Mai practices on her own nails so she can replicate the design even for sudden client requests. Mai wonders why she just said that. Chihara greets Kuroki in the morning as he walks to school. Chihara shows off her nails and asks Kuroki if he notices anything different about her today. Kuroki wonders when she got her nails done and thinks to himself that her attack power is surely high. A young Kuroki sits on a couch near a Christmas tree and thinks about what he should ask Santa for. Chihara enters the room dressed in a Santa costume and greets him, leading him to ask if she is Santa. Chihara stares at Kuroki and he wonders in shock if she is Santa-san. Kuroki asks if she is truly Santa-san, and she replies that she supposes so, prompting him to ask about the missing beard. Chihara explains that she forgot the beard, then ponders this while touching her chin. Chihara tells him that she is like a reverse Santa, and when Kuroki asks if such a thing exists, he wonders if she is there to give him a present, despite it being a week until Christmas. Chihara explains that since she is a reverse Santa, he is the one who has to give her a present instead, and she demands he hand it over. Kuroki panics, exclaiming that he cannot do that because he did not prepare anything. Chihara grabs Kuroki by the face and tells him that he is coming with her in the bag. Kuroki stares in shock as Chihara reaches out to him. Kuroki screams that he is being kidnapped as he is taken away. Kuroki's eyes widen as he snaps awake. Kuroki sits up in bed feeling cold and relieved that it was only a dream as he hears birds chirping outside. Kuroki looks out the window wondering what kind of Christmas he will have this year. Kuroki looks over to see Chihara standing in the room wearing her Santa outfit and waving at him. Mai adjusts her hair in front of a mirror while a sign advertises glossy, gleaming eyes. Chihara counts down for them to make matching heart poses with their hands, and Kuroki internally questions how things reached this point. Chihara poses while holding a stick in her hand. Kuroki walks through the city thinking about how long it has been since he went out on his own. Kuroki notes that he only needed to return a DVD and is free now. Kuroki walks past Chihara and thinks that hanging out at a manga cafe sounds nice since he usually sticks to the same places. Kuroki stops and asks Chihara how long she has been there, and she replies that she just arrived, explaining she is out for a walk while asking what he is doing. Kuroki says he has not decided what to do yet, and Chihara asks if he is out for some fun, leading him to nervously suggest they hang out if she is okay with it. They arrive together in front of a game center. Kuroki enters a photo booth with Chihara, thinking about how he ended up in this flashy booth after following her lead. Kuroki admits he has never done this before and is nervous, but Chihara tells him not to worry. Chihara selects a sweet pure filter for their photo, and Kuroki wonders if she decided that after looking at his face. Kuroki panics at the bright lights of the booth as Chihara instructs him to do a bunny pose. Chihara and Kuroki hold their hands together in a heart shape while posing inside the photo booth. Kuroki panics because the photos are being taken while Chihara explains she is making a bunny pose, specifically highlighting her front teeth. Chihara instructs Kuroki to make hearts with their cheeks while he complains about the blindingly bright lights in the photo booth. Kuroki begs her not to take the photo while Chihara happily tells him to say cheese. Kuroki performs the takoyaki pose as instructed while internally feeling hurt. Chihara asks Kuroki to look straight at the camera while she poses with her hand against her face. Kuroki waits outside the booth, and Chihara tells him they can move to the screen doodling section now. Kuroki tells Chihara to be careful not to choke while she looks at the photo results. Chihara tells Kuroki that she will keep the photo for today, and he warns her not to stick it on her phone. Kuroki thanks Chihara for hanging out with him on his day off. Chihara treasures the photo she is holding while Kuroki looks on and sighs that it is fine. A printed photo shows Chihara and Kuroki smiling together inside a heart frame. Students stand in a hallway and confirm with one another that today is Halloween. Kuroki asks Chihara if she is going home, and she asks him if he has any sweets on him because she is hungry. Kuroki holds out a mini donut that he found in his pocket. Chihara accepts the mini donut. Chihara asks Kuroki why he is carrying a mini donut while the narration notes that Kuroki is unaware it is Halloween. Kuroki realizes today is actually Halloween and asks Chihara if she intended to mess with him because of that. Chihara confirms his suspicion. Chihara tells Kuroki she has no sweets on her and asks for more mini donuts. Kuroki hands her 2 more mini donuts so she will stop bothering him. Chihara accepts the extra donuts. Chihara argues that it is not nice despite Kuroki's complaints. Chihara thinks that she got an emotional response from Kuroki after her retort. Chihara asks if Kuroki does not have any more sweets and if he knows how Halloween works, warning him that she might prank him. Kuroki asks Chihara what kind of prank she is planning. Kuroki shouts that he does not want to, while Chihara insists that he close his eyes for a second. Kuroki refuses to close his eyes, calling her a liar and accusing her of planning to pull a prank the moment he does, while Chihara calmly holds a marker. Chihara touches Kuroki's cheek with her finger, reassuring him that she will not do anything scary. Kuroki wonders what Hibiya would say in a situation like this, as a small mental image of Hibiya tells him to keep him out of it. Kuroki nervously agrees and asks if he just needs to close his eyes. A classmate whispers to others that there are people watching, noting that even for Halloween their behavior is a bit too much. Kuroki squeezes his eyes shut. Chihara leans in close, holding a marker ready to write on Kuroki's forehead. Kuroki opens his eyes and announces that he is done, while the words "Mai's treasure" are written on his forehead. Chihara tells Kuroki she will see him later and begins to walk away, while he expresses shock that she is leaving already. A gym teacher rushes over to Kuroki, calling his name while holding a bandana. The teacher ties an American flag bandana around Kuroki's head. The teacher tells Kuroki not to look at it. Chihara sits in the classroom looking out the window while other students occupy the room. Chihara looks over at the empty desks, noting that it is rare for Kuroki to not be there already. Chihara asks if Kuroki is late, and a girl replies that she heard he was going to change schools because he was moving. The girl points to Kuroki's empty desk as she talks about him moving schools. A classmate asks where Kuroki went, and another student jokingly tells him that Kuroki went to Dubai. The classmate asks if Chihara was not there moments ago, and the other student admits he was just kidding about Dubai and that it was random speculation. Chinatu hears about the situation and looks surprised. Chinatu confronts Chihara, telling her that classes are about to start. Chihara is stunned to hear that Kuroki is moving and changing schools. The classmate says that Kuroki did not tell anyone and that his calls are not getting through either. Chinatu wonders if this is a prank, but she thinks that Kuroki is not the type of person who would avoid saying goodbye, making his sudden departure a real possibility. Chinatu tells Chihara that they are going to look for Kuroki, and a worried Chihara asks what she should do. Chinatu tells Mai she will try to find and ask Kuroki's friends and instructs Mai to go look for him at his home. Mai expresses her confusion, and Chinatu remarks to herself that this might be the first time she has seen Mai freaking out like this. Mai prepares to leave while Chinatu decides to try contacting Kuroki's 2 friends first. A view of the park shows an empty playground and benches. Kuroki shouts that he is obviously not moving into anyone's house. Chinatu shouts in frustration, asking why the Kuroki family would move into someone's house by surprise. Chihara tells the group that Mai has been running all over the place searching for her, and she is at a loss as to what is happening. Kuroki asks why they did not just confirm this with his homeroom teacher instead of asking them. The group stands together in the park. Kuroki remarks that Chinatu is being very nice today, and she tells him to shut up and stop trying to be empathetic. The group discusses the situation, with someone suggesting they need to calm down and carefully examine the source of the information. The sky over the buildings darkens as someone apologizes to Mai. Commuters move through a busy train station ticket gate. Kuroki explains to a friend that he rushed to the hospital after his father had an accident involving a 3-wheeled motorcycle, but is relieved that his father is doing okay. Kuroki checks his phone and realizes it is 1115 with 2 missed calls, worrying about making it to his afternoon classes. Chihara suddenly appears and shouts Kuroki's name, causing him to react in surprise. Chihara stares at Kuroki in disbelief while he stammeringly greets her. Chihara runs toward Kuroki, who wonders to himself what is going on. Chihara screams that she is running straight toward him. Chihara throws her arms around Kuroki in a tight hug. Kuroki blushes deeply as Chihara holds onto him. Chihara tells Kuroki not to go anywhere and promises that her family will adopt him, leaving him confused and blushing. Kuroki asks why she is bringing up his supposed move to a different school, pointing out that he had not been at school and was not answering his phone. Kuroki assures Chihara that he is not going anywhere. Kuroki asks Chihara if someone actually told her that he was moving. Chihara asks if he really is not moving even to Dubai, and Kuroki confirms that he is not. Chihara listens and simply replies that she sees. Chihara smiles brightly with her hands clasped together, saying that she is so glad. Kuroki apologizes, saying he does not really get the full picture but realizes he ended up making her worry. Chihara tells Kuroki she has him in her custody now and suggests they play hooky and hang out. Kuroki says he has to tell everyone that he is not going anywhere, while Chihara insists she is taking him to school with her. Kuroki thinks to himself that Chihara seems to care about him more than he previously thought. Chihara thanks him and Kuroki promises he would never go away without telling her first. Chihara suggests they go back. Chihara's father tells Kuroki to get in the car so he can take him to his new home, noting that he heard the story. Chihara turns around when a student greets her in the morning asking where Kuroki is. The student asks Chihara why she is acting weird and wonders where Kuroki is. Mai sleeps soundly in her bed with her phone lying nearby on the sheets. Mai wakes up and realizes that what she experienced was just a dream. Mai checks her phone and sees the time is 1115 on a Saturday, noticing a cat icon on the screen. Mai stares intently at the phone screen. Mai looks at the phone and sees the time again with a cat visible in the corner of the screen. A clock on the wall shows the time and Mai decides to go back to sleep. Mai lies in bed looking at her phone. Mai uses her fingernail to scratch the screen and the screen shows a picture of a cat. Mai wonders about food, then looks at her phone while lying in bed. Mai reads a note left by her father which says he went out for the day and she can eat whatever is in the house. Mai looks for food and finds a can of mackerel. Mai prepares a meal with the can of mackerel and a bowl of rice, bringing her hands together to offer thanks for the food. Mai finishes the meal and says thanks for the food again. Mai holds the empty can in her hand. Mai notices the label on the can and realizes she has just eaten cat food. Mai searches on her phone for the effects of canned cat food on the human body, looking concerned as she reads the results. A child holds up a drawing of Mai-chan and expresses excitement, while Mai watches from her phone screen, receiving a notification that a picture has been with her. Mai stares at her phone and scratches the screen. Mai looks at a message on her phone containing a photo of the drawing and asks if she can come over to hang out right now. Mai waits for a response, passing the time over 15 minutes, and then another 5 minutes before finally checking her phone again. Mai sees a reply from Kuroki apologizing for the late response and agreeing to let her come over, and she reacts with wide-eyed surprise. Mai lies on the floor relaxing and kicking her leg up in the air. Kuroki wonders if he should have played along and thinks about what Hibiya would say, feeling flustered because he froze up. Mai welcomes the child into her room and tells her to make herself at home. The child asks what they should do today and says she was looking forward to hanging out while Mai looks on. Mai asks the child what she usually plays with, and the child mentions they play with the Sylvanus family doll set. Mai tells the child she will be right back and exits the room. Mai offers the child a small rabbit doll to play with, mentioning she has had it for a long time and that the child can take it home if she likes. Mai tells the child that they will need to find some friends for the doll, while the child thanks her enthusiastically. Mai shows the child a black cat toy and the child calls it a kitty. Mai shows the child a dog toy and the child calls it a doggy. Mai shows the child a bottle of pills, explaining they are Wuling powder pills used in traditional Chinese medicine. Mai asks the child if she wants to do something else, and the child suggests they just chat and talk about Mai. Mai tells the child she is free to ask whatever she likes, and the child agrees. The child asks Mai if she is going out with her brother. Mai accidentally knocks over the bottle of pills, sending them scattering across the floor. Mai says the lid must have been loose and asks if the child talks about these things with her friends, to which the child says yes. Mai mentions that there are couples in their class and the child reacts with interest. Mai explains that she noticed the child and her brother get along well, so she was wondering if they are a couple as well. Mai smiles softly as she says she wants them to get along even more, while the child looks on. Mai laughs and the child looks on in confusion. The child happily exclaims that her brother said the exact same thing about Mai. Mai stares in silence with a blank expression. Mai asks if the child wants to eat some gyoza, and the child eagerly agrees, while Mai tells her to keep their conversation a secret from her brother. Chihara tells Kuroki that he looks quite sleepy today, and he tiredly agrees. Kuroki explains that he stayed up late playing games and wants to concentrate on the next class, since it is a course he is not good at. Chihara offers to take care of it for him, leaving Kuroki confused. Chihara hands Kuroki a thermos and tells him it will be helpful, and he asks if it is coffee. Mai confirms it is hot cocoa, and Kuroki drink it, noting that its sweetness and warmth are perfect for the cold season. Chihara warns him to be careful not to drink too much because of the caffeine, and Kuroki remarks that the drink makes him feel like he took a breather before bed. Kuroki says he is feeling sleepy, and Chihara denies that she is trying to make him sleep. Chihara tells him he overplayed games last night and that even his eyes look tired. Chihara stops realizing something and asks Kuroki if he has any blueberry candies. Chihara tells Kuroki to take a sleep mask, denying that she is trying to make him sleep, while Kuroki continues to protest. Kuroki wonders why Chihara would even have a sleep mask on her. Chihara tells Kuroki to give her his ears, explaining that pressing pressure points on the ears can help one relax, and Kuroki asks if that is true. Kuroki asks if he can trust her. Chihara stares in silence and tells him to never mind. Chihara leans in close to Kuroki and tells him to tilt his head to the side. Kuroki nervously reminds himself that it is just a simple ear massage, while Chihara asks if her fingers are cold. Chihara massages Kuroki's ear, causing him to moan in reaction. Chihara sarcastically calls Kuroki a traitor while he looks completely bewildered. Chihara instructs Kuroki to place his hands on his lap. Kuroki thinks that staying up late was his own fault, but tells Chihara he will just power through the next class after washing his face. Kuroki wonders if that was Chihara's way of telling him something, looking back at her. Kuroki is startled to see Chihara sitting there drinking a caffeinated energy drink. Chihara apologizes to Kuroki for messing with him. Chihara tells Kuroki it is time to go home, and he enthusiastically agrees. Kuroki asks if she is going straight home, and she confirms she is, while mentioning she needs to help her dad when she gets there. Kuroki notes that it is really starting to feel like fall and remarks that it is a bit chilly. Chihara gently takes Kuroki's hand. Chihara tightly interlocks her fingers with Kuroki's, causing him to react in surprise. Chihara notes that it is about time to change into winter uniforms. Chihara looks at Kuroki with an intense expression. Leaves drift slowly through the autumn sky. Chihara holds a lollipop and looks directly ahead. Chihara holds Kuroki's hand and thanks him for playing with her little sister the other day. Chihara tells Kuroki that her sister had a lot of fun and wants to go play again, while Kuroki looks on. Chihara asks if everything is okay, and Kuroki nervously assures her that of course it is. Kuroki recalls Hibiya telling him that he should invite his friends if they all get together again, and he notices that Chihara seems restless. Kuroki wonders to himself if this could be the reason for her behavior as he glances at Chihara. Kuroki wonders to himself if she thinks she needs to use the restroom. Chihara tells Kuroki she is fine, and he frantically asks if they should stop by a convenience store or somewhere else. Kuroki thinks he might have been wrong about why she stopped. Chihara stares at Kuroki. Kuroki internally thinks that this moment could last forever, and he asks Chihara if she wants to stop by a convenience store. Chihara asks if he really wants to stop somewhere. Kuroki tells her it would be quicker if they just headed to the station now. Kuroki says goodbye to Chihara for the day, and she stares at him in silence. Chihara asks Kuroki about his hand, and he asks what she means by his hand. Chihara squeezes Kuroki's hand tightly. Kuroki exclaims in shock, asking why she is doing that after all this time. Chihara asks if he grabbed her hand by mistake, and Kuroki apologizes, explaining that it just became a habit after walking with his little sister all day yesterday. Chihara stares intensely at Kuroki. Kuroki tells her that he did not hate it, and Chihara asks him if he hated it. Chihara asks if he was happy about it. Kuroki shouts with a blushing face that of course he was happy about it. Chihara smiles playfully and lets out a cat-like noise. Chihara tells Kuroki she is counting on him again next time, leaving him shouting in disbelief.